Chapter 1908. Peace. Could retreating bring peace? Back to the cavern world, Mingguang opened the cavern world's treasure vault and selected many years of accumulation. Grandpa, why did you even take out the 8 lights mirror? Ming Dai's pretty face was full of anger. The words of the leader were heard by all the cavern world, and his actions were also seen by all living beings. A leader who was tolerant to the outside world and cruel to the inside world made them angry, but dare not speak out. In the end, the leader stubbornly insisted on seeking peace in the form of peace. He also requested each cavern world to select 3 top-notch beauties and 3 top-notch divine weapons to send a peace team to the enemy, in order to obtain their concessions. The 8 lights mirror is a relic of my father. He used his life to protect it and left it for Grandpa to treat his old illness. How can we take it out? Ming Dai obstructed. Mingguang smiled bitterly. This is the intention of the leader. He specifically asked us to take out this thing. Ming Dai's mind was slightly blank, and then she clenched her fists. What leader? Cowardly cowards who are afraid of death, yet dignified and dignified. Shoo. Mingguang hurriedly cast a soundproof enchantment, isolating all the words she had just said, and solemnly said, "Be careful, the walls have ears." Even the master of the cavern world was killed by Ri Donglai for saying the same thing. Wouldn't an ordinary tribesman like you die faster? Ming Dai's eyes were filled with humiliation and anger. Then what should we do? Don't tell me grandfather also believes that the enemy's army is pressing down on us and we will retreat because of peace? Mingguang shook his head slowly. Of course the enemy will not retreat, but if we can dispel the last unrealistic thoughts of the leader, it's also good. Soon after, 30,000 beauties of the Rising Sun tribe, 30,000 divine weapons and treasures, led by the peace team, walked in one direction. However, what Mingguang didn't expect was that the enemy agreed to the peace request. The peace messengers were safe and sound. For the first time, all of them came back alive. They brought back the news that the Rising Sun tribe wanted but always failed. That was, the enemy who besieged them was not someone else, but the Wolf Smoke tribe. Moreover, it was the entire Wolf Smoke tribe. This news crushed Ri Donglai's idea of deceiving others and himself. However, the Wolf Smoke tribe gave Ri Donglai an unexpected piece of news. Peace can be sought, but your sincerity is not enough. Knowing that the enemy was the Wolf Smoke tribe, Ri Donglai's heart sank into despair. The Wolf Smoke tribe was extraordinarily powerful. The third leader was a double crown emperor, and Ri Donglai was far from being his opponent in a one-on-one fight. Not to mention their second and third leaders. It was said that the second leader had already cultivated to the late stage of double crown emperor. As for the great leader, who hadn't shown his face for several hundred years, he had even reached the level of a double crown emperor, and was only a step away from becoming a triple crown emperor. Any one of them could easily kill him. Moreover, the Wolf Smoke tribe had 1,000 single crown emperors under their name, more than 10 times that of the Rising Sun tribe. If they really fought, did he have any chance of surviving? Perhaps ordinary tribesmen could survive, but as the leader, he was a must-kill target for the Wolf Smoke tribe. There was no way he could survive. One could imagine how excited he was when the Wolf Smoke tribe sent word that there was hope for peace. He was like a drowning man who had grasped onto a life-saving straw. As for the Wolf Smoke tribe's insufficient sincerity, he completely ignored it. What else do they want? Ri Donglai eagerly asked the returning messengers for peace. They want 100 million young men and women with the best qualifications to be their slaves. As long as they agree, they will immediately retreat. The messengers were humiliated. 100 million, almost all the most outstanding young generation of the entire Rising Sun tribe would be taken away. For hundreds of years, the Rising Sun tribe would not have any outstanding young talents grow up. However, Ri Donglai nodded without hesitation. 100 million, no problem. Our Rising Sun tribe is not short of people. Send an order to all the masters of the cavern world to hold an important meeting. Soon, the masters who had just returned to their respective cavern worlds had to gather in Ri Donglai's cavern world. At this moment, Ri Donglai's face was full of sorrow, and he said solemnly, "My fellow compatriots, after our disdainful efforts and the sacrifice of many tribesmen, we finally see the dawn of peace." No one was happy, except for Ri Donglai himself. As the leader, I am very sad for those tribesmen who sacrificed themselves, and the women who volunteered to serve the enemy. This is my dereliction of duty, my fault. Ri Donglai's face was full of self-blame, but I did this for the sake of thousands of other tribesmen. For their beautiful future, I am willing to endure humiliation. His eyes were brimming with tears, and his tone was sincere, as if it came from the bottom of his heart. People don't live for the dead, but for the living. Therefore, no matter how many grievances I have, I hide them in my heart and swallow them silently. I hope that my clansmen can understand me and support me. A group of cavern world masters stared coldly. Only a small number of them still believed him. Most of them completely saw through him when he killed his compatriots cruelly and decisively. For the tribesmen? It was for themselves. This time, the Wolf Smoke tribe brought back a message. As long as we send 100 million young men and women with good qualifications to the Wolf Smoke tribe to exchange and learn with the young people of their tribe, we can retreat and let the two tribes return to peace. As soon as these words came out, almost all the masters of the cavern world glared at him. If it was in the past, they might have blindly believed Ri Donglai and believed his nonsense. But now, who would be willing to believe that 100 million young men and women would be sent over just for exchange and learning? They would probably become slaves of the Wolf Smoke tribe from then on, right? Sending them there was like sending sheep to the tiger's mouth, pushing them into a pit of fire. All the masters of the cavern world, please return to the cavern world immediately and mobilize 10,000 of the best young men and women. Ri Donglai ordered without hesitation, for the future of the rest of the tribesmen of the Rising Sun tribe, please persuade them. The time limit is only half a day. If enough people are not mobilized in half a day, then for the safety of the tribesmen, I can only come and mobilize them personally. As the masters of the cavern world, who do not do their job well and endanger the lives of the tribesmen, they will be punished severely by abolishing their cultivation. Hearing this, the masters of the cavern world were in an uproar. But with the previous example, no master of the cavern world dared to question it face to face. However, in private, the masters of the cavern world had already complained and completely lost confidence in Ri Donglai. When Mingguang returned to the cavern world, Ming Dai came to him with concern. "Grandpa, what does the leader want us to offer this time?" When she learned that it was to recruit 10,000 of the best young women from the cavern world, Ming Dai was furious. That good for nothing. He actually deceived 100 million tribesmen to go to the Wolf Smoke tribe to be slaves. "Grandpa, are you trying to deceive the people of our cavern world?" Ming Dai suddenly became vigilant. Mingguang shook his head calmly. "Of course not." His eyes flashed slightly. "To be precise, the masters of our cavern world are discussing a major event." "What is it?" Mingguang did not answer, but said, "You immediately inform the people of the cavern world to stay in the house as much as possible and don't go out." Hearing this, Ming Dai understood what her grandfather wanted to do. Put away the cavern world and prepare to betray the Rising Sun tribe. In addition, don't tell anyone about this, including your brothers and sisters, and Su Yu. It was a matter of great importance, and Ming Dai understood her grandfather's situation very well. Betraying the Rising Sun tribe was a capital crime. However, it was better than being killed by Ri Donglai, and it was better than sacrificing his own people. 2 hours later, Mingguang seemed to be seriously mobilizing the young people in the cavern world. In fact, Ming Dai had quietly informed the people to immediately stop all their activities and go to a safe place to take refuge. Because when the cavern world was put away, there may be a certain amount of turbulence, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and other dangerous situations. Grandpa, everything is ready. Ming Dai secretly said. She was infinitely supportive of her grandfather's decision. Mingguang nodded slowly and said, "You also stay in the cavern world. Grandpa will deal with it alone." Subsequently, Mingguang left the cavern world and appeared outside the world. When he was preparing to shrink the cavern world, he saw that hundreds of thousands of cavern worlds had disappeared. It turned out that many cavern world masters with a conscience made the same choice as him. Betraying the rising sun tribe. Instead of waiting for death, it was better to unite and rush out. Swish, swish, swish. One after another, there were cavern world masters who collected the cavern world and gathered in the southernmost direction. Vaguely, as many as 400 or 500 cavern world masters gathered together, preparing to break through the blockade of the Wolf Smoke tribe and escape from the Rising Sun tribe. Mingguang was suddenly moved. Instead of acting alone, it was better to go with them and have a greater chance of escaping. He was about to speed up when suddenly, a tyrannical aura rolled over from the top of his head. It was Ri Donglai. That aura directly descended among the masters of the cavern world who were preparing to flee. Without any explanation or questioning, Ri Donglai coldly attacked. The highest cultivation level of the defected masters was only the single crown emperor, and most of them were half-step emperor realm. In front of the double crown emperor, they were like a group of ants. With a loud bang, 400 or 500 masters instantly turned into a rain of blood, and none of them escaped. Ri Donglai was drenched in blood, and his eyes were particularly cruel, betraying the Rising Sun tribe, disregarding the lives of the people of the tribe, kill without mercy. The thunderous roar penetrated all the cavern world. There are still 2 hours left. If you can't complete the goal, this leader will punish you severely. He intentionally or unintentionally stared at Mingguang, and the latter's old body suddenly trembled, pretending to repair the cavern world. As Ri Donglai left, he returned to the cavern world in fear and anger. "I can't leave." Mingguang looked at the mountains and rivers of the cavern world in the distance, and his eyes were full of shame. "I'm incompetent, I'm ashamed of your faith, and I'm unable to protect you." Noticing the movement outside, Ming Dai's heart twitched slightly, unable to suppress his grief and anger. Swish, swish, swish. Choose a young man with ordinary qualifications, that's all I can do. Mingguang felt powerless. Chapter 1909. 2 hours later. Ri Donglai came out of the 10 cavern worlds, his hands full of blood, and the young men who were forcibly escorted out. Finally, the 10 disobedient cavern world controllers received the punishment they deserved. Looking around the plaza of the Rising Sun tribe, Ri Donglai smiled and said, "My fellow tribesmen, don't be afraid and don't hesitate. What awaits you is an unprecedented opportunity. You will represent the Rising Sun tribe and head to the Wolf Smoke tribe to exchange and learn from their outstanding youths. Go. You will be the proof of peace between our 2 tribes." Under the leadership of Ri Donglai's confidant, 100 million young men wept, resisted, and were pushed towards the Wolf Smoke tribe. Looking at their backs, Ri Donglai breathed a long sigh of relief. The great crisis had finally been resolved. Half a day later, Ri Donglai's confidant sent a message. The Wolf Smoke tribe is very satisfied with our sincerity and decided to send emissaries to the Rising Sun tribe tomorrow to sign a treaty of friendship between the 2 tribes. Hearing this, Ri Donglai was overjoyed. The stone in his chest was completely lifted. He happily arranged the venue for tomorrow's negotiations and prepared to welcome them with the grandest ceremony. He was sure that they would be satisfied. At the same time, he ordered the Rising Sun tribe warriors to patrol the various cavern worlds and strictly ordered that no creature should say anything negative about the Wolf Smoke tribe. He also specially granted the patrol warriors the right to kill first and report later. Once found, they would be arrested immediately, and those who dared to resist would be killed on the spot. In addition, he also summoned the Cavern World controllers to arrange in detail the venue and order for tomorrow's peace talk. He asked each Cavern World controller to manage their own people and not let the people of the Wolf Smoke tribe have the slightest dissatisfaction, so as not to affect the peace talks. At this point, what else could they say? 100 million people had been sacrificed. What else could they do? They could only accept the humiliating peace. Suyu, who was in a deep retreat, knew nothing about this. He was trying to explore the new magical use of the law of time, and had a little success. The next morning, he walked out of the training room and faintly found that the atmosphere of the Cavern World was not right. Not only were there many more Rising Sun Tribe patrols, but the spirits of the Cavern World were also unusually depressed. Casually listening to their thoughts, Suyu frowned. The Wolf Smoke Tribe came faster than expected. Moreover, so many things had happened during the few days he had been in retreat. In particular, Ri Donglai's performance made Su Yu's eyes turn cold. At the same time, a group of 10 people from the Wolf Smoke Tribe slowly stepped into the Rising Sun Tribe. The leader was none other than the traitor of the Rising Sun Tribe, Shan Lingfei. Not long ago, it was also him who followed the third chieftain into the Rising Sun Tribe and slaughtered countless clansmen. After a few days, he became the peace ambassador of the Rising Sun Tribe. Ri Donglai led the masters of the Cavern World to welcome them from afar. Welcome, envoy of the Wolf Smoke Tribe. We, the Rising Sun Tribe, warmly welcome you. Ri Donglai ignored Dan Lingfei's identity and cupped his fists with a smile. Dan Lingfei sat on top of the beast. His posture wasn't flattering at all. His gaze landed on Mingguang, and the corner of his mouth revealed a sarcastic sneer. Back then, when Mingguang killed his family for the sake of righteousness, he probably never dreamed that one day he would return with such an identity, right? Mingguang frowned deeply. He had a very bad premonition. Sir Envoy, please come this way. Ri Donglai led the way in front with a smile on his face. At this moment, from a cavern world that they passed by, tens of thousands of creatures rushed out. They all had cultivation, but it could be said that their cultivation was negligible. The Wolf Smoke Tribe killed countless of my people. Ri Donglai scourged my people, and made them worse than pigs and dogs. This is the cycle of the heavens. Evil has its retribution. Tens of thousands of people were stained with blood. It was the blood of the patrol soldiers. Their cavern world was the world where the first ruler was killed by Ri Donglai. The previous ruler sacrificed himself to protect them. The next ruler was killed by Ri Donglai in order to seek justice for the dead group of people. In order to protect them, the current ruler chose to lead them to escape from the Rising Sun Tribe and was killed by Ri Donglai again. Among the 3 rulers, 2 of them did not die in the hands of the enemy, but in the hands of their own people. Traitors were always more ferocious than the enemy. In order to save his own life, Ri Donglai had long betrayed the Rising Sun Tribe and his people. The sudden situation made Ri Donglai's smiling face suddenly stiff and cold. He glanced sideways, and a powerful wave killed all of them in an instant, leaving no bones behind. His heart slightly tightened, and he looked at Dan Lingfei cautiously. What made his mood fall to the bottom was that Dan Lingfei's face was ice-cold. He stared at him indifferently. Ri Donglai, is this the sincerity you mentioned in the peace talks? Let's go. Without saying a word, he turned around and left. Ri Donglai's face was livid with anger. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he pinched his 5 fingers in the air. Crack! The cavern world where tens of thousands of rebels appeared was shattered in an instant. The billions of living beings inside were all buried. The last time the Wolf Smoke Tribe attacked, the number of people of the Rising Sun Tribe killed was less than a fraction of this time. The rulers of the cavern world behind Ri Donglai were so angry that their eyes almost popped out. All of them clenched their fists, wishing they could grind Ri Donglai's bones and scatter his ashes. He didn't have the courage to fight back, but he was so vicious to his own people. What kind of leader was he? Ri Donglai cast an apologetic smile at Dan Lingfei. I'm very sorry, Sir Envoy. A few traitors have disturbed you, but I promise that I will give you a perfect explanation like just now. Dan Lingfei glanced at the shattered cavern world and smiled evilly. That's more like it. Under the warm reception of Ri Donglai, the Wolf Smoke Tribe's envoy delegation finally came to the negotiation hall. A banquet had been set up there, and countless beautiful human maids stood respectfully on both sides, welcoming them to take their seats. Dan Lingfei's cloak fluttered, and he sat at the head of the table, glancing at the people in front of him. The leader of the Rising Sun tribe, who he used to look up to, and the ruler of the cavern world, who he needed to treat respectfully, were now standing in front of him humbly. A feeling of exaltation lingered in the depths of his mind. His eyes were like lightning. He stared at Mingguang in the crowd again and said lightly, Ri Donglai, your people don't know the rules. I represent the big leader and second leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe. Seeing me is the same as seeing them, but your people are standing straight. Are you disrespecting the two leaders? Ri Donglai's heart tightened, and he hurriedly turned his head and shouted, Didn't you hear? Why aren't you kneeling down and greeting Sir Envoy? The rest of the people knelt down one after another. They had sacrificed so much, so what if they sacrificed a little more dignity? In the crowd, Mingguang's old face flashed with deep hatred and bitterness. He bent his knees and also knelt down. Staring at Mingguang, who was kneeling on the ground, Dan Lingfei laughed wildly. You may rise. Dan Lingfei waved his hand and then looked at the maids present critically. Do you only have these beautiful women in the Rising Sun tribe? I really can't see your sincerity. Go, call Ming Dai over to accompany me for a drink. If she makes me happy, then today's peace talk will be easy. Mingguang was furious. He really wanted to make a move on Ming Dai. However, not allowing him to say anything, Ri Donglai smiled and said, For Sir Envoy to let Ming Dai accompany you for a drink, that is a blessing that she can't cultivate for a few lifetimes. Go, inform Ming Dai and ask her to come over. Ri Donglai's confidant immediately flew to Mingguang's cavern world. Dan Lingfei stared at Mingguang's murderous eyes, and his heart was extremely happy. Countless ways to make Mingguang suffer so much pain flashed in his mind. For example, strip Ming Dai on the table and turn her from a girl to a woman in front of him. Thinking so in his heart, he and several other Wolf Smoke tribe messengers laughed and drank. The human maids forced themselves to be happy, dancing and playing music. Ri Donglai was full of smiles and accompanied them to the side in a friendly manner. That scene was as awe-inspiring as it could be. Dan Lingfei felt that he had reached the peak of his life. After 3 rounds of drinking, Ming Dai still didn't come. He frowned unhappily. Ri Donglai, why is it so difficult to be alone? Or does your Rising Sun tribe think that I, Dan Lingfei, am not worthy of her accompanying me for a drink? Ri Donglai's face changed slightly, and he immediately winked at his confidant on the side, asking him to see what was going on and why Ming Dai hadn't come yet. Sir Envoy is heroic and outstanding, a dragon among men. Ming Dai is just a little girl. For you to take a fancy to her, that is, before he finished speaking, a voice came from the soul level of everyone at the same time. Well, at least you know your place. You are indeed not worthy of Dai or accompanying you for a drink. Dan Lingfei's face suddenly turned cold, and he stared coldly at Ri Donglai. It seems that I was right? Ri Donglai broke out in a cold sweat, and at the same time, a strong murderous intent arose in his heart. Who dared to ruin the peace talks? Swish, in the center of the banquet, there was a spatial fluctuation, and a silver-haired handsome young man with his hands behind his back appeared. His face was indifferent, and his eyes were as calm as water, without any joy or anger. Dan Lingfei's pupils shrank. It was him. The young man who killed the third leader. Why did the Wolf Smoke tribe send their troops to the border? It was because he killed the third leader that the Wolf Smoke tribe sent their troops to the border. Dan Lingfei was extremely afraid, but when he looked at Ri Donglai, who was beside him, his heart calmed down again. With this person's leader here, could he still rebel? Ri Donglai, is he also one of your people? Dan Lingfei said lightly, the displeasure on his face almost carved out. Ri Donglai looked at Suyu. He had never seen Suyu before, but there were countless people in the Rising Sun tribe. The envoy is here, why don't you kneel down? Ri Donglai's face was cold. Suyu did not even look at him. He stared at Dan Lingfei and said calmly, go back and tell the two leaders of the Wolf Smoke tribe to wash their necks. I will come back later to take their lives. As soon as he said that, everyone present was shocked. Ri Donglai was even more furious. Finally, a reckless young clansman popped out after much difficulty. 1,000 deaths would not be enough to atone for this. Chapter 1910. Suyu chose to ignore Ri Donglai. He looked at Shan Lingfei for a moment. The latter was fearless and looked at him coldly with an evil smile, as if to say, what can you do to me? Ri Donglai, your people don't seem to be very obedient. If you make me unhappy, this peace talk will end here, Shan Lingfei said coldly. The other 9 envoys of the Wolf Smoke tribe all had cold faces, and they looked like they were about to leave. Ri Donglai knew he could not wait any longer. His aura suddenly doubled, wanting to crush Suyu into nothingness in an instant to satisfy the 10 envoys. However, as the aura pressed down on him, Suyu's clothes gently lifted, and there was no longer the slightest change. There was a flash of surprise and doubt in his eyes. With a frown, he changed to a palm across the air. A wisp of the desolate power turned into a sharp thread and flew out, intending to kill Suyu. However, Suyu stood in place with his hands behind his back, not dodging or evading, allowing the desolate power to strike. 3 feet away from his body, an invisible space barrier suddenly appeared. The desolate power hit the barrier, creating ripples, and then disappeared. This time, Ri Donglai was really surprised. His blow could only be resisted by a single crowned martial artist. Anyone below the martial artist level should have no power to resist. Suyu's gaze lingered on Shan Lingfei for 10 breaths before he said lightly, since you don't want to go back, let someone else do it for you. He did not move, but a space lotus suddenly bloomed under the seat of honor that Shan Lingfei was sitting in. When Shan Lingfei saw Suyu effortlessly block a blow from Ri Donglai, he had a bad feeling and secretly took precautions. Almost reflexively he roared, the shifting stars. He was clearly in the center, but when he used the divine technique, he switched places with the envoy of the Wolf Smoke tribe on the far left. Before the envoy could recover, he was immediately crushed into a mist of blood by the blooming lotus. Dan Lingfei's pupils constricted. He would never forget that spatial lotus, not even in his dreams. Among the thousands of soldiers and horses, a lotus bloomed, leaving a long trail of blood. Hundreds of Wolf Smoke tribe soldiers died instantly. At this moment, he sucked in a breath of cold air and roared in horror, Ri Donglai, you piece of trash, you can't even discipline your own people. How dare you assassinate the envoys? I'm going to report this to the 2 leaders and immediately exterminate your entire clan. He was really flustered, as if Ri Donglai could not restrain this clansman. What was going on? Wasn't he a member of the younger generation cultivated by the Rising Sun tribe? Where did he get the courage to resist Ri Donglai? Suyu looked at him calmly. I want to clarify 2 things. First, I am not a member of the Rising Sun tribe, but a passerby. 2, I'm a man of my word. If you don't want to go back and send the message, I'll find someone else. With a cold gaze, Suyu took out the Azura sword and pointed it at the air. This sword caused Shan Lingfei's soul to leave his body. He vividly remembered how the third leader had died. At this moment, his scalp went numb and he cursed, "Protect me!" Ri Donglai reacted and shouted, "Evil creature, stop! Do you want to kill our rising sun tribe? However, that wisp of sword chi had already pierced through without a sound. Shan Lingfei was shocked to the extreme. At the critical moment, he smashed a jade pendant hanging on his chest and yelled, "Second leader, save me!" Bang! A majestic aura of a double-crowned emperor suddenly descended. The aura converged to form a burly, 6 feet-tall man. There was a black sun mark between his eyebrows. It was the famous second leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe. This was the amulet given to Shan Lingfei by the second leader. At the critical moment, it could be used to kill Ri Donglai. Peace talks? Was it possible? He had killed the third leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe. Only the annihilation of the entire Rising Sun tribe could wash away the hatred. As for agreeing to the peace talks, it was just to numb the Rising Sun tribe and prevent them from falling into a desperate situation. It was ridiculous that the leader of the Rising Sun tribe believed it. As soon as the projection of the second leader appeared, he immediately displayed a powerful law and blasted it against the oncoming sword. Poof! The two eliminated each other, and the remaining sword chi pierced through and shot towards Shan Lingfei. Shan Lingfei's expression changed. Even a blow from the second leader could not withstand his sword. Big Dipper! He displayed a similar divine technique again. This time, he moved another messenger in front of him. In an instant, he was penetrated by the remaining sword chi, and his life was extinguished on the spot. However, the sword chi did not stop and continued to attack. Big Dipper! Another messenger was moved in front of him, but he still ended up dead. After a few more moves, 8 of the other 9 messengers became his scapegoat. But because of this, the terrifying sword chi finally dissipated. Shan Lingfei's legs were trembling. He turned around and fled in horror. Suyu stood where he was and made a grasping motion with one hand. Shan Lingfei, who had already escaped far away, was swept up by an irresistible force of space and returned 30 feet in front of Suyu. This scene caused Shan Lingfei to scream in fear. The most terrifying enemy was not one who was absolutely stronger than him, but one who was not only strong but also had the power to prevent him from escaping. Ri Donglai, why the hell are you still standing there? Hurry and save me! Shan Lingfei was terrified of Su Yu and treated Ri Donglai like an animal. However, Ri Donglai had pinned his last hope on Shan Lingfei and obeyed him. His face was extremely gloomy. Looking at the corpses of the messengers on the ground, he said furiously, "Where did this little bastard come from? How dare you ruin the plans of the Rising Sun tribe? I will not forgive you." Creak! A large number of chains of rules appeared in his palm, indicating that Ri Donglai was going to kill him with all his might. It was not until this moment that Su Yu looked at Ri Donglai seriously for the first time. His eyes were calm, and his inner emotions could not be seen. He said calmly, "I wanted to get rid of the messengers of the Wolf Smoke tribe before dealing with you. Since you are so considerate of the people, I will deal with you first." A crimson flame emerged from his palm. It was the unfathomably powerful true dragon divine flame. At the moment when the other party's chains of rules attacked, Su Yu flicked the flame with his fingers. In an instant, Ri Donglai's chains of rules were burned. Ri Donglai screamed in pain. His rules were damaged, and he was in great pain. "What kind of flame is this?" he screamed in horror. In the face of this flame, he felt a sense of insignificance, as if he could be killed at any time. Su Yu said lightly, "You don't have to know. You just need to understand that everything you do has a price." The Azura sword turned with his wrist, drawing out a cold and obscure sword energy. Suddenly, Ri Donglai's heart beat wildly, and a rare sense of life and death crisis surged. In the blink of an eye, he surged the power of desolation all over his body and slammed it out, trying to contend with it. However, the sword energy turned a blind eye to it and easily penetrated the power of desolation that Ri Donglai was proud of. At this moment, Ri Donglai was shocked and hurriedly took out his divine weapon. However, the moment the divine weapon touched the sword energy, it was destroyed on the spot. He threw out 4 or 5 top-grade divine weapons in succession, but they were all destroyed one by one. Stop. If you kill me, what will happen to the Rising Sun tribe? Without my protection, what will happen to them if other tribes invade in the future? At this critical moment, Ri Donglai shouted in a panic, trying to move Su Yu with a high-sounding reason. Su Yu was unmoved and said calmly, "The protection you are referring to, are you referring to the tens of billions of creatures in the cavern world that you destroyed not long ago? Or are you talking about the people who were sent to the Wolfsmoke tribe as slaves, or are you talking about the cavern world masters who were brutally killed by you? Compared to you, the enemies you speak of are too merciful. The number of people from the Rising Sun tribe they've killed isn't even a fraction of what you've killed," Su Yu said placidly. "Since ancient times, traitors have always been more brutal than enemies." As his voice fell, Su Yu waved his sword again. 2 destructive sword energies came one after another. Ri Donglai roared unwillingly, and his eyes were wide open as he cursed, "Little bastard, what does the Rising Sun tribe's business have to do with an outsider like you?" As soon as his voice fell, the vitality of his body was instantly hollowed out. However, the moment the sword energy penetrated his body, a furnace wrapped in other souls escaped from his body. Under such circumstances, the body and soul should be destroyed together. That furnace should not be simple. The 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace. Wasn't it stolen by a mysterious person during the era of the previous tribal leader? Mingguang and several of the older generation of the Cavern World Masters were shocked. The so-called 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace was a mysterious treasure inherited by the Rising Sun tribe. It had a life-saving effect on the soul. It was said that even a blow from the 3-Crown Emperor could not hurt the soul. The most important thing was that, if the soul was injured, it could be nourished by the furnace and slowly recovered. As long as there was a part of the soul left, no matter how serious the injury was, it could be completely healed. It was said that the first leader of the Rising Sun tribe, in order to fight for enough territory for the tribe, fought hundreds of battles with the foreign tribes. Dozens of times, the body was severely injured, and 9 times the soul was almost irrecoverable. However, they were all repaired by the furnace and pulled back from the edge of death. Therefore, it was also called the 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace by the Rising Sun tribe. This furnace, as a sacred object, had always been kept by the tribal leader. Until the previous leader of the Wolfsmoke tribe led a group of people to pass by the Rising Sun tribe and took the opportunity to plunder, they were resisted by the leader. The leader was defeated, and his soul was seriously injured by the leader of the Wolfsmoke tribe. The leader then went into seclusion, using the 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace to repair the seriously injured soul. However, no one expected that the leader, who was in seclusion, was suddenly attacked by an unknown strong person. Not only was his injury aggravated, but the 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace was also taken away. Not long after, the previous leader died because of double injuries. The 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace was also missing. What all the masters of the cavern world did not expect was that the 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace was actually in the hands of the current leader, Ri Donglai. The mystery of tens of millions of years ago was suddenly solved. To be able to hide from so many people and break into the place where the leader went into seclusion, besides their own people, who else could it be? And only when the previous leader died, could the current leader take over. Ri Donglai, it was you who killed the old leader. Everyone suddenly understood, and they all gnashed their teeth in hatred. For so many years, they did not see through Ri Donglai's despicable and insidious character. They let this group of pests who had harmed the Rising Sun tribe get away with it until today. Ri Donglai's soul hid in the 9 Death Soul Protection Furnace and fled in horror. At this moment, there was no place for him in the Rising Sun tribe. Chapter 1911. Su Yu grasped with one hand, and the space around Ri Donglai was blocked, forming an impenetrable space cage. If he had a body, he might be able to break the space cage by force, but he was only left with his soul. Suyu easily crushed Ri Donglai's body and imprisoned his soul. The masters of the cavern world present not only did not try to stop him, but they were extremely excited. Of course, there were a few of Ri Donglai's confidants who were pale. Dan Lingfei also looked gloomy. His face was covered with Ri Donglai's blood, but he was not as arrogant and proud as before. Like a poor worm who had just fallen from the peak of life to the bottom of life, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed miserably. Say, Senior, I know I was wrong. I will repent and rejoin the Rising Sun tribe. I will never do evil again. No matter what you ask me to do, I will obey your orders. Suyu stared at him indifferently and shook his head gently. Your eyes tell me that if there is a chance, you will make things worse and pay back the humiliation you have suffered today tenfold. It is useless to keep people like you alive. With a flick of his fingers, a strand of silk flew out from his wrist and neatly cut off his head. The connected soul was also cut and shattered. Of the 10 peace negotiators, only the last one was still alive, but his whole body was stiff and his feet were like lead. He stood in place and did not dare to move. He looked at Suyu as if he was looking at a man-eating demon. He killed Ri Donglai, a double-crown emperor, with a flick of his fingers, and their souls could not escape. What kind of strength was this? Only the great leader could compare with him. When Suyu looked at him, he screamed, and his legs went soft and he collapsed to the ground. Suyu flicked his fingers, cut off the heads of Ri Donglai and the other 8 envoys, and threw them all to him. This is a gift from the Rising Sun tribe for the peace talk. The peace talks are over. Tell your 2 leaders to wait for me to come and take their lives. Go. Without saying anything, Suyu's mind moved, and a space power wrapped him and the 10 big heads and sent them away from the Rising Sun tribe. After doing this, Suyu waved his sleeves, and all the blood was swept away. He silently left the cavern world, and came to a cavern world that had already collapsed. He clenched his hands, and the broken cavern world condensed into a humanoid statue kneeling on the ground. The face and shape were undoubtedly Ri Donglai. Then, he waved his hand across space, pulling Ri Donglai's soul over. With a flick of his finger, a wisp of true dragon divine fire wrapped around his soul. Under his control, the true dragon divine fire's high temperature constantly roasted him to the point where he wished he was dead, but it wasn't fatal. At the same time, Suyu poured pure life force into his soul and released it bit by bit. When his soul showed signs of weakening, it would be released to preserve his soul. In this way, he would suffer the torment of the true dragon divine fire for all eternity until his life force was exhausted. Only then would he truly die. Since you keep saying that you are thinking for the sake of the people of the Rising Sun tribe, then set an example and express it with practical actions. Suyu said calmly, Your punishment is to kneel in the stone statue for 1,000 years and repent to those of the same race that you killed. He clenched his fist and sent his soul into the kneeling statue. At the same time, he injected Suyu's death law into the stone statue. If anyone wanted to break the stone statue and save Ri Donglai's soul, they would first have to bear the attack of the death law. Anyone under the Double Crown Emperor would die. The masters of the cavern world who rushed out all applauded and cheered. What Suyu did was simply gratifying. Among the crowd, Mingguang walked out. He felt like he was in a dream. The young man he accidentally brought back turned out to be a peerless strong man. What kind of terrible character was Ri Donglai? How could he be killed so easily? With such terrible strength, he had only heard of the great leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe. Senior Su, if I have offended you in the past, please forgive me. Mingguang couldn't help but remember that he had put Suyu in prison. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but be frightened. It doesn't matter, Suyu said indifferently. Mingguang secretly breathed a sigh of relief and bowed to Su Yu with several other masters of the Single Crown Emperor's cavern world. "We thank Senior Su for your great kindness. Without Su Yu's help, they didn't know how long they would have to endure Ri Donglai's bullying. Su Yu unleashed the power of space in the air and helped them up. He had a guilty look on his face as he said, 'I can't accept your thanks. I am ashamed to say this, but the Wolf Smoke Tribe's invasion was caused by me.'" Mingguang was puzzled and said, "Senior Su, what do you mean by this?" Su Yu said, "I killed the third leader of the Wolf Smoke Tribe, which provoked the revenge of the Wolf Smoke Tribe. However, to be honest, the Wolf Smoke Tribe did have a large army, but the number of people killed was only 10,000. The one who really killed the Rising Sun Tribe was the tribe leader, Ri Donglai." "What, Senior? Senior Su also killed the third leader?" Everyone gasped. What kind of strength was he? The third leader of the Wolf Smoke Tribe was far stronger than Ri Donglai. Not only did he kill Ri Donglai, but he was also strong enough to kill the third leader. It was incredible. Mingguang came back to his senses and hurriedly said, "Senior, please don't say that. Ri Donglai did not dare to retaliate against the Wolf Smoke Tribe. Senior killed the third leader, which was something we wanted to do but were powerless to do. We can't even thank you enough. How can we blame you? If the people who sacrificed themselves knew about it, they would not blame you." Su Yu sighed. "I didn't kill them. They died because of me. I am responsible for their death." He didn't shy away from his own mistake. If he had woken up earlier, there probably wouldn't have been so many innocent and resentful souls who died in vain. Mingguang sighed. Compared with the selfish Ri Donglai, Su Yu was noble beyond the clouds. "Senior Su, we are very grateful for everything you have done for the Rising Sun Tribe. Now, please leave quickly. I think with your strength, as long as you don't meet the two leaders of the Wolf Smoke Tribe, there should be no problem. We will also put away the cavern world and break out of the encirclement. We will try to lead the people to escape from the encirclement and find a place to settle down." Su Yu listened and said, "Let's wait for a while." Mingguang hesitated. "Senior, I'm afraid we can't wait any longer. The Wolf Smoke Tribe knows that the peace emissary has been killed. They will definitely come after us. At that time, it may be difficult to leave." Hearing this, Su Yu shook his head lightly. "I am waiting for them to send the peace emissary over and ask for peace from us." Ask for peace from us? Many of the cavern world controllers looked at each other in disbelief. Even if Su Yu was strong, could he be stronger than the second leader of the Wolf Smoke Tribe? That was a top-notch late-stage double-crown martial emperor. In addition to him, there was also the Great Leader. In addition to the Great Leader, there were thousands of single-crown martial emperors. What could Su Yu do to the Wolf Smoke Tribe alone? At the same time, the tsunami-like army of the Wolf Smoke Tribe surrounded the Rising Sun Tribe, layer by layer. A moving central army camp, carried by hundreds of wild beasts, followed the army and marched towards the Rising Sun Tribe. In the military camp, two people were sitting opposite each other, playing chess leisurely. One of them had a black sun between his eyebrows. It was the second leader of the Wolf Smoke Tribe. The other was a middle-aged man with a single eye. He had an elegant temperament and a calm expression. If not for his single eye, which ruined his temperament, no one would have guessed that the person in front of them was the famous great leader of the Wolf Smoke Tribe. It was rumored that he was a peak existence close to the Triple Crown Martial Emperor. Big Brother's chess skills are much more exquisite. I am ashamed of my inferiority. The second leader thought hard for a long time, sighed helplessly, and admitted defeat. The great leader smiled lightly. Chess skills are about strategizing and grasping the chess pieces. A good chess piece can often turn something rotten into something magical and reverse the situation. Haha, I don't understand what you are saying, Big Brother. Anyway, I am not interested in chess skills. But Big Brother, you have always been interested in chess skills, the second leader said with a smile. The great leader said meaningfully, It is not that I am interested in chess skills, but I have been waiting for a game of chess. Big Brother's words are a bit profound. I don't understand. What game of chess in the world needs Big Brother to wait for? The second leader asked suspiciously. The great leader nodded his head slightly, his eyes shining brightly. I have already waited for tens of millions of years for that game of chess to start. If I am lucky enough to join it, maybe I will have a chance to break through and become a Triple Crown Emperor. The second leader's heart thumped. What game of chess is so special, to actually give Big Brother a chance to break through to become a Triple Crown Emperor? Common people's chess. The great leader calmly spat out these 3 words, his gaze sharp. The second leader was shocked. Common people's chess? Why hadn't he heard of it before? Just as he was about to ask, a report came from outside. The envoy for the peace talks had returned and had something to report to them. The second leader couldn't help but laugh in a mocking manner. It seems like we managed to bluff that bunch of dumb things. Big Brother really has a good plan, sending an envoy to cause discord between their leader and people, and also to make them lower their guard. Like that, it will be really easy for us to wipe out the Rising Sun tribe. The great leader shook his head in disagreement. It isn't that I am smart, but that Ri Donglai is too stupid. He is so stupid that I can't feel any joy from winning. No matter what, I won't be able to learn Big Brother's move. The second leader laughed and said. Then, he said, let the envoy in. The flap of the tent was lifted, and only one person entered. The second leader frowned. Why are you alone? Where is Shan Lingfei? Wasn't he in charge of the peace talks? When he heard that, the envoy knelt down. I am useless and couldn't protect Shan Lingfei well. He took out Shan Lingfei's head. When the second leader saw it, he was stunned. He was dead? There was no sadness in his eyes. To him, Shan Lingfei was just a dog that could be abandoned at any time. However, this dog was really vicious when it bit people and was really useful. The great leader was slightly confused. Why would Ri Donglai allow him to be killed by the Rising Sun tribe? According to his analysis, Ri Donglai was a chess piece that was afraid of death. Under the tense environment he created, Ri Donglai would spare no effort to serve Shan Lingfei. The envoy took out Ri Donglai's head in fear and said with a trembling voice, He is dead? Chapter 1912. The second chief suddenly got up and asked incredulously, How did he die? Did the Rising Sun tribe have a powerful being who could kill Ri Donglai? But was it possible? They were all tribes on the grassland and knew each other's strength. If the Rising Sun tribe really had someone who was stronger than Ri Donglai, he would not be controlled by someone like Ri Donglai. The messenger did not dare to hide anything and said in horror, He is the one who killed the third chief. The second chief was shocked again and his tone suddenly became gloomy. Didn't you say that the young man only used the powerful magic weapon of the Rising Sun tribe to kill the third chief? What was wrong with Ri Donglai? He didn't take back the magic weapon but caused himself to lose his life. At least the group of deserters came back and said that the young man killed the third chief with a mysterious powerful magic weapon. The messenger hurriedly shook his head and his face was full of fear. No, he is not a member of the Rising Sun tribe, but a human guest passing by. Not only could Ri Donglai not restrain him, but he was also easily killed by him. Not a member of the Rising Sun tribe? The news was unexpected. They thought that they could use Ri Donglai to control their own people, and it would be best to force Ri Donglai to take the initiative to kill this person. Unexpectedly, he was not a member of the Rising Sun tribe. So, our Wolf Smoke tribe is actually fighting with a mysterious expert who has no fixed residence? The second chief's eyes showed a trace of thought. They were not afraid of the powerful Rising Sun tribe. No matter how strong the expert was, he could not leave the tribe. He had to stay to protect the tribe. In this way, as long as they had enough troops, no matter how strong his cultivation was, it would be useless. However, if the other party was a lone wolf, it would be troublesome. He had no fixed residence and no one to protect. He could leave at any time and come back at any time. It could be said that he was a ghost that made people restless. Big brother, it seems that we made a mistake from the beginning. The second chief turned his head and said. The great chief stared at the chessboard and asked thoughtfully, He let you come back just to bring back the heads? The emissary shuddered violently and stammered. He asked me to tell the two leaders that these heads are his gifts for the peace talks, and then he asked the two leaders to wait. He's coming to take your heads. The second chief laughed angrily. What an arrogant tone! However, there was a deep fear in his words. After killing one of the three leaders and another Redonglai, his cultivation level might not be lower than his. Moreover, they came and went without a trace, and could appear at any time. Such an enemy was too dangerous. Big brother, what do you think we should do? The second leader looked at the big leader and asked him to make a decision. The great leader's remaining eye was empty and apathetic. It's fine. He is not a lone wolf, but a goat that will not leave its side in order to protect its people. Big brother, why do you say that? The great chief said indifferently. He is just a passerby. Why would he send us gifts for peace talks for the sake of unrelated people of the Rising Sun tribe? After pausing for a moment, he flicked his finger and hit the bell outside the tent, causing the bell to ring violently. That was the signal for the army to move faster. Kill him. He will stand in front of the Rising Sun tribe and use his body to block our arrows. The wild beasts charged towards the Rising Sun tribe at an unprecedented speed. 2 hours later, the sky around the Rising Sun tribe was densely packed with countless black shadows, like a black tide, surrounding the entire Rising Sun tribe. Suffocation and despair welled up in his heart. Suyu looked towards the heavens. A giant eye hung in the 9 heavens, silently watching everything on the ground. The scene from countless miles away entered his vision. A central army camp carried by hundreds of wild beasts was clearly reflected in Suyu's eyes. That must be the tent of the Wolf Smoke tribe's great leader and second leader. Thinking of this, Suyu took out a pitch-black giant bow and stuck it into the ground. The law of great strength and physical strength gathered in his arms, and he pulled the bowstring 6 inches apart. Then, he knocked the heavenly arrow and silently aimed at the central army camp. The great leader, who had been calm all along, suddenly frowned and slowly stood up. Second brother, get out of the way, something dangerous is coming. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, a jet of black flowing light traversed the space and instantly spun and penetrated the central army camp tent. The entire tent was torn to shreds in an instant. The two great leaders instantly flew to the left and right, barely avoiding this dangerous attack. Looking ahead again, the black flowing light had sliced a bloody path 100 feet wide through the densely packed army. Thousands of Wolf Smoke tribe warriors and wild beasts died in an instant. The second leader's eyes were filled with shock as he turned to look. The black flowing light that had brushed past him had disappeared into thin air. The great leader's gaze pierced through the distance and fixed on the front of the Rising Sun tribe. He could vaguely see a silver-haired human standing in front of a giant iron bow. Is that this person's divine weapon? The second leader's heart was pounding. With the great leader's warning, he could avoid it in advance. If he had been alone, he would have been killed by the arrow. The great leader was about to speak when his pupils suddenly shrank and he pushed the second leader away from him. At the same time, he also dodged. Almost at that moment, a shockingly destructive sword energy rippled out formlessly. Then, a silver-haired youth, holding a blood-red long sword, stepped out from the chaotic yin and yang energies. I asked you to wash your necks and wait quietly, but you took the initiative to come to me. I appreciate your kindness, Suyu said indifferently. He then swept his sword horizontally toward the second leader. The second leader's expression changed drastically, and he retreated without hesitation. Barely dodging the attack, the great leader suddenly yelled, "Be careful behind you!" The second leader turned his head to look, and a quiet space lotus had appeared behind him. As he retreated, it suddenly bloomed. A sense of life and death crisis welled up in his heart. Without thinking, the second leader leaned to the right and was about to escape. But suddenly, a large number of scales appeared on the surface of Su Yu's body, and he turned into a long dragon that was 1,000 feet long and overflowing with evil energy. The huge dragon tail swept mercilessly and hit the second leader fiercely. No matter how much he guarded against it, he could never guard against a human transforming into a giant dragon. With a bang, he was swept toward the space lotus. The blooming petals sealed him in the lotus. The great leader's expression changed drastically. He had expected Su Yu to be very strong, but he did not expect him to be this strong. Not only did he have a divine weapon, but he also had countless powerful techniques. He rushed toward the space lotus, using the chain of rules to shake the lotus. At the same time, he said urgently, "Quick, attack from the inside and outside, break the space cage." He had a very bad premonition that the other party's techniques might not be so simple. The second leader had never felt such panic before, and a great sense of regret shrouded his heart. If he had known this would happen, he would not have rushed into the wolf smoke tribe. But they were obviously one step too late. The evil dragon opened its huge mouth and suddenly spat out a powerful divine fire, igniting the entire space lotus. A shrill scream rose into the sky. The second leader was sealed in the space of the lotus, burned alive into a giant flaming man. The great leader flew over with a roar, trying to break the space cage. But as soon as he touched it, it was also ignited by the real dragon divine fire, and it quickly spread to his body. Feeling the extreme danger of this fire, the great leader hurriedly tore off his clothes and shook off the divine fire by a hair's breadth. But he dared not attack the space lotus again, and could only watch helplessly as the second leader was burned to a pile of ashes. He took a few deep breaths, and stared angrily at Su Yu with his remaining eye. In his anger there was a deep sense of fear. He was wrong. Su Yu had never been a pawn that he could control, a pawn that he could manipulate. He had thought that he could easily kill Su Yu, and that was why he had rashly attacked. Human, no matter how powerful you are, can you be more powerful than the entire wolf smoke tribe? The great leader slowly retreated. Countless strong fighters of the wolf smoke tribe surged forward, protecting him behind them. Hundreds of single-crowned divine warriors were at the forefront, launching fierce attacks at Su Yu. Even the great leader had no confidence that he could withstand the simultaneous attacks of 100 single-crowned divine warriors. Su Yu could not either. But someone could. "I said I would take your head, and I will." Su Yu calmly took out a white emperor puppet shrouded in a black robe. The invincible aura of the three-crowned divine warrior was released in an instant. He took a step forward and casually threw a punch forward. A swirling force gushed out from his right fist. The combined attack of hundreds of single-crowned divine warriors was instantly wiped out, and the force of the fist did not seem to be expended much. It bombarded the hundreds of single-crowned divine warriors. Countless heart-wrenching cries of pain could be heard. Dozens of single-crowned divine warriors died on the spot, and the rest were all severely injured. The great leader, who was protected by layers upon layers of protection, was also affected. His internal organs were violently shaken, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face finally revealed an expression of shock. Three-crowned divine warriors! That kind of invincible existence had already surpassed a simple advantage in numbers. It was like how, no matter how many ants there were, could they fight against an elephant? It was only a matter of time before they were destroyed. At the same time, Su Yu disappeared from his original spot. The great leader's heart trembled. He took out a ring-shaped sharp blade and slashed at the right side of his body. Ding! A blood sword silently appeared, but was blocked by the sharp blade. His senses were abnormally strong. But at the moment of contact, the blood sword suddenly shot out countless space blades, slicing toward the great leader. The great leader's expression changed. He grabbed out with one hand, grabbing a dark yellow blood-stained cloak, and covered himself with it. Ding, ding, ding. He did not know what the cloak was, but it had actually blocked the space blade. Suyu raised his brows. At that moment, the great leader's cloak was lifted, revealing his hidden head. A cold glow shot out from his remaining right eye. Suyu felt dizzy. His soul had been shaken. His soul was that of a three-crowned divine warrior, and yet it could still be affected. Die! The sharp blade in the great leader's hand silently slashed across Suyu's neck. At that critical moment, his wrist lightly shook. Countless strands of silk flew out, weaving into a giant net in front of his neck. However, that circular sharp blade was actually an unknown powerful divine weapon. The silk that Xiao Dai had used to break out of her cocoon had been completely severed. If the silk was like that, then what about Suyu's neck? Suyu's gaze darkened. The surface of his body suddenly rippled with a layer of extremely obscure ripples, like a slowly flowing stream. The great leader's sharp blade slashed across the surface of his body, but it actually froze. Chapter 1913. Seeing that he was about to succeed, the great chief gasped. This is time law. A layer of ripples of absolute time formed on the surface of his body. No matter how strong one's attack was, upon contact with the ripples, one would instantly fall into absolute time. As for Suyu himself, he was not affected and he slowly recovered. The great chief knew this was not good. Without hesitation, he gave up on the circular sharp blade and quickly retreated. Almost at the same time as he retreated, Suyu's palm suddenly moved, and he used the instant destruction technique. The great chief retracted his head into the cloak. There was a slight muffled sound. The cloak shook and all the sword energy was bounced back. He did not know what this cloak was, but it was abnormally strong, and no attack could break it. But Suyu's eyes turned cold. His soul suddenly left his body, and he stood on the top of his head, taking a deep breath. His soul was like a balloon, inflating 4 to 5 times its original size. Then he suddenly opened his mouth and spat. Soul roar! Roar! An incomparably sharp cry descended in an instant like a gust of wind. The great chief, protected by the cloak, was right in front of him. He was caught off guard by the roar. Even though the cloak's defense was astonishing. But Suyu was the soul of a three-crown emperor. How could he be completely immune to the new soul technique he had just used? The great chief groaned, his body swaying as he groaned in pain. The nearby warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe were not much better off. Within a radius of 100,000 feet, whether it was a single crown emperor or a low-level warrior, their souls were instantly shattered by the roar, and they died on the spot. The lethality of this roar was comparable to a casual blow from a three-crown emperor. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Suyu flicked his long sword and tore off the great chief's cloak. But the great chief was already prepared, and he grabbed the cloak tightly as he retreated. As he retreated, he frantically ordered, "Kill! Kill the Rising Sun tribe!" Receiving the order, the warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe roared as they charged toward the Rising Sun tribe. Suyu's gaze was cold. He could not care less about the fleeing great chief, and he turned to kill the warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe to prevent the Rising Sun tribe from suffering further serious damage. The great chief took the opportunity to continuously use secret techniques, fleeing quickly, even abandoning the Wolf Smoke tribe. He knew that Suyu would protect the Rising Sun tribe, so in order to escape, he ordered the warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe to attack the Rising Sun tribe. The result was just as he expected. Suyu killed many people in succession, but there were just too many enemies, and he couldn't kill them all in a short time. The soldiers of the Wolf Smoke tribe in the other directions had no idea that Suyu, the ferocious man, was here with a three-crown emperor puppet. It whistled as it charged over excitedly. Suyu stopped, took a deep breath and roared, Great leader, second leader, I will kill you. If you are disarmed, I will not kill you. If you are armed, I will kill you. He roared out with the law of great strength, his voice covering the sky, comparable to thousands of thunderbolts. The galloping savage beasts were so frightened that they staggered, causing the warriors who were caught off guard to fall off their backs. They are dead? Impossible! How is that possible? However, the great leader and the second leader did not respond, as if they were verifying his words. Instantly, the surging warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe looked at each other in bewilderment. The reason why they dared to be fierce was not because they were powerful, but because they had three powerful leaders. If the three chiefs also died, who would be able to resist the strong ones among them when other tribes came to seek revenge in the future? Walala! The warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe in the rear fled in panic, retreating like the tide. The warriors in front had no time to escape. Mingguang and several other masters of the cavern world looked at each other and roared, "Warriors of the Rising Sun tribe, listen to the order. The leader is dead, follow us to kill the enemy." The warriors of the Rising Sun tribe had long been fed up with Ri Donglai's cowardice and forbearance. They responded one after another and followed the masters of the cavern world to kill the enemy. On one side were defeated deserters, and on the other side were angry warriors who were oppressed. The results of both sides were self-evident. It was almost a one-sided massacre. The war lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. More than half of the warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe escaped, but more than half were wounded or captured. The huge victory made the Rising Sun tribe proud, and the resentment in their hearts disappeared. The most fortunate thing was that the 30,000 top beauties and 100 million young creatures who had been sent to seek peace were abandoned by the Wolf Smoke tribe in this battle and returned safely. Both sides hugged each other and cried bitterly, feeling wronged and sad. A group of masters of the cavern world led the warriors to clean up the battlefield, bury the bodies of their own warriors, and harvest the belongings of the warriors of the Wolf Fang tribe. Mingguang and a group of masters listened to the reports of the soldiers. In this battle, they suffered more than 10 million casualties, but the enemy killed more than tens of billions. In comparison, the losses were negligible. This kind of war with no casualties was a miracle. Their casualties were mainly caused by some fierce warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe, who were forced into a desperate situation and fought back fiercely. The rest of the warriors of the Wolf Smoke tribe threw away their armor and only wanted to escape. They were caught up by the warriors of the Rising Sun tribe behind them and slaughtered. After this battle, the vitality of the Wolf Smoke tribe was greatly damaged, and it was almost impossible to show off their power in the grassland. Moreover, the Wolf Smoke tribe had bullied countless small tribes. If they learned that the 3 leaders of the Wolf Smoke tribe were killed in battle and more than half of the warriors were injured or killed, it was self-evident what they would do. Mingguang and the others were overjoyed. The boulder that was pressing on their chests suddenly fell, and a long-lost sense of relief welled up in their hearts. "By the way, where is Senior Su? Why don't I see him?" A master of a single crown looked around. At this moment, a powerful wave of yin and yang energy descended. Su Yu appeared with a sullen face and withdrew the Azura sword with a clang. He was naturally chasing after the great leader, but this person had used a secret technique. Not only had he escaped far away, but he had also erased his scent. Staring at the broken silk on his wrist, Su Yu's face became even more sullen. The great leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. An ordinary double crown master, even at the later stages, was usually not a match for Su Yu. But the great leader was really strange. The cloak with unparalleled defense, the strange and powerful secret technique of the soul, and the round sharp blade that he had seized, no matter how he looked at it, he did not look like an ordinary person. He had experienced the second and third leaders, and they were nothing special. Why was the great leader so powerful? Senior Su, thank you. Your great kindness will be remembered by the Rising Sun tribe for generations. Mingguang was extremely grateful and shocked. He could really kill the second leader in front of the army of the Wolf Smoke tribe and defeat the great leader. Su Yu's face was calm as he said, "No need. This matter started because of me, so it should end because of me." After pausing for a moment, he stared at Mingguang. "Do you know the specific origin of the great leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe?" Mingguang was startled. He pondered and said, "The leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe has always spoken with strength. 500 years ago there were only 2 leaders, who are now the second and third leaders. But then a very powerful single crown master appeared. Not only did he break through to the double crown master, but he also defeated the third leader not long after the breakthrough. 100 years later, he defeated the second leader and became the great leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe. Since then, he has ruled the Wolf Smoke tribe for 400 years. A strong person who rose from nowhere? Su Yu pondered. Then, what about the records before he became the Double Crown Master? In response, Mingguang shook his head. "We have investigated that record, and it is a blank." He seemed to have appeared suddenly, without the slightest sign. And suddenly at that, Su Yu closed his eyes and thought for a long time before whispering, "No matter who you are, your life will eventually be destroyed by me." While he was surprised by Su Yu, far away by the river of the grassland, the great leader was washing his wounds by the river. Dark red blood flowed down the river. What is going on with that young man? The great leader's only eye revealed hatred, surprise, and deep fear. A powerful and frightening bow and arrow, strange sword techniques, space law, dragon transformation, terrifying divine fire, and time law. Any one of them could become a powerful force to rely on to be undefeated among the same level. But this person? He had mastered 6 of them. Moreover, the great leader's intuition told him that the other party had not used his full strength. He was still holding back. When did such a demon appear in the holy mountain? The great leader could not calm his emotions for a long time. With my strength, in the Dark Star Alliance's Chamber of Commerce branch, I was known as the strongest person below the Triple Crown Master. I did not expect to be defeated so badly by a nameless junior. If I had not escaped decisively, I would have been left here forever. He did not doubt that Su Yu had the ability to completely kill him. After resting for a moment, he stared in the direction of the holy mountain. The Wolf Smoke tribe that I had planned for 500 years is gone just like that. Fortunately, I had planned far and wide in those 500 years. Losing the Wolf Smoke tribe would not affect the final plan. Turning his head to stare at the Rising Sun tribe, he said coldly, "You better pray that you do not meet me in the holy mountain. Otherwise, you will be doomed eternally." Time passed slowly. The trauma suffered by the Rising Sun tribe recovered quickly in half a year. Moreover, after receiving more than half of the resources of the Wolf Smoke tribe warriors, the strength of many of the Rising Sun tribe warriors had increased significantly. In half a year, several single crown masters had appeared in succession, greatly exceeding the level before the war. The most exciting thing was that Mingguang was elected by the crowd to become the successor of the chief. After half a year of consolidation and receiving the legacy at the altar of the Rising Sun tribe, his divine power had been cultivated to perfection, and he was close to breaking through to the Double Crown Master. In less than 10 years, a new chief would be born. Moreover, the 9-death soul protection cauldron, which had been missing for 30 million years, had also returned, enhancing the tribe's confidence in the future. However, no one would forget who it was who had given them everything. In Mingguang's cavern world, Su Yu withdrew his soul power and said, "Well, your soul has recovered to its original state. Remember not to try to absorb faith again." Ming Dai held a rootless purple royal wood in her hands excitedly. In half a year, Su Yu not only healed her soul, but also gave her a legendary rootless purple royal wood. This was a divine item for breaking through to the half-step emperor level. It could only be found by chance. "Thank you, Senior Su." Ming Dai was grateful. Su Yu nodded lightly. Find time to refine it. Now, it is time to prepare for the Holy Mountain. Half a year had passed, and it was time to escort Faith to the Holy Mountain. As a member of the Rising Sun tribe, he would follow the crowd into the Holy Mountain to find the scabbard and the great formation of heavenly stars 9 Yin and 9 Yang. Chapter 1914. Soon after, the Rising Sun tribe prepared 10,000 black statues filled with the power of faith and set off for the Holy Mountain. The person in charge of escorting them was the new tribal chief of the Rising Sun tribe, Ming Guang, accompanied by his daughter, Ming Dai, and Su Yu. Ming Guang welcomed Su Yu's willingness to go to the Holy Mountain with him. The journey of escorting Faith had never been peaceful. Many teams of small tribes that escorted Faith disappeared silently on the grassland. As for where they went, everyone knew. Therefore, with a strong master like Su Yu in charge, he was very pleased and happy. As for Ming Dai, she was led by Ming Guang to broaden her horizons. On this day, the inexplicable pressure that filled the grassland suddenly dissipated. The leaders of large, medium, and small tribes set off for the Holy Mountain together. The once-in-a-century time to pay the power of faith had arrived. Su Yu's eyes lit up, and a chaotic yin and yang energy gathered above his head. In an instant, he took Ming Guang and Ming Dai and teleported to the Holy Mountain. Half a month later, a snow-covered mountain peak came into view. There was only one mountain in the entire grassland, and that was the Holy Mountain. The Holy Mountain was covered with ice and snow all year round, and in the ice and snow lived the supreme king of the Dark Star civilization, the King of Darkness. When they arrived, there were already hundreds of small and medium tribes waiting at the foot of the mountain. They had brought the statues to the foot of the mountain a long time ago, waiting for the Holy Mountain to open. At this moment, several special people in snow-white robes stood at the entrance of the Holy Mountain, registering the names of those who entered the Holy Mountain one by one. When the Rising Sun tribe rushed over, several people in snow-white robes recorded the names and detailed information of the three of them. Ming Guang kept his head down and pressed down on Dai Er's head, who was looking around curiously, so that she would not look around. At the same time, he sent a message to Su Yu, saying in a low voice, "Senior Su, the people in front of us are all people of the Holy Mountain. They were born on the Holy Mountain and will die on the Holy Mountain. From birth to death, they will never leave the Holy Mountain. They will always serve the King of Darkness. They are the trusted subordinates of the King of Darkness. Do not offend them." Su Yu nodded slightly and looked at them with a meaningful gaze. Rising Sun Tribe, Chief Ming Guang, tribe members, Ming Dai, Su Yu, please go to room D108 to rest. The man in the snow-white robes lightly drew a line with his pen. Ming Dai was stunned for a moment and muttered, "That's not right. As a medium-sized tribe, we should be in the C guest room. Isn't the D guest room prepared for small tribes?" The snow-robed man heard her muttering and looked at her. "Unless it's a large tribe, there's no difference between a medium-sized tribe and a small tribe. If you don't want to go up, then stay at the foot of the mountain." Ming Guang was shocked and hurriedly apologized. "Our clansmen are ignorant. I hope you can forgive us. We will go up now." The snow-robed man said indifferently, "Then leave quickly. The Iron Sword tribe and the War God tribe will be here soon. Don't block the way." The Steel Sword tribe and the War God tribe were two of the three large tribes on the grasslands, on par with the Wolf Smoke tribe. Their overall strength was slightly inferior to that of the Wolf Smoke tribe, but they were still extraordinarily powerful. A medium-sized tribe could not compare to them. The undisguised contempt made Ming Dai very angry. Under Ming Guang's stare, she didn't dare to act rashly again. Pouting, she unwillingly came to the Ting guest room. The so-called T-shaped guest room was as simple as it could get. It was just a cave casually dug in the iceberg. It couldn't even block the wind and cold. They had to rely on their divine energy to protect themselves. The Ting guest room even had an ice house, complete with all the necessary facilities. Ming Dai looked at the other medium-sized tribes. They were all staying in the Ting guest room, but they had to stay here. She couldn't help but complain, "Father, what's going on? Is the person from the Holy Mountain blind? He actually arranged for us to stay in the Ting guest room. He's too polite." "Shh." Mingguang hurriedly silenced her, a puzzled look on his face. "It's really strange. It seems like we're being targeted." Su Yu leaned against the ice wall, a cold light in his eyes. "We're really being targeted?" Mingguang was shocked. "Elder Su, what do you mean?" "Over the years, the Rising Sun tribe has been diligently collecting the power of faith. We've never neglected or made any mistakes. Why is the Holy Mountain targeting us?" Just now, Su Yu had been listening to the thoughts of the snow-robed man. Su Yu heard every single one of his thoughts. "It's not that I've neglected the sacred mountain. Rather, I've offended the people of the sacred mountain. To be more precise, I've offended the people of the sacred mountain." Mingguang frowned. "Bribe? As far as I know, the people of Sacred Mountain serve the King of Darkness, and all their needs are provided by Sacred Mountain. Why would they need to be bribed by outsiders?" In his heart, the people of the Sacred Mountain, be it the King of Darkness or the snow-robed man who served the King of Darkness, were all people who stood aloof from worldly affairs. Where there are people, there will be Jianghu. There are many people on the Holy Mountain, and they will naturally compete with each other. If there is competition, there will be needs, and if there is a need, there will be opportunities for outsiders to take advantage of. Su Yu was indifferent. Ming Dai nodded as if she understood, and said with a smile, "Senior Su knows a lot." Mingguang was stunned for a while. Thinking of Ri Donglai of the Rising Sun tribe, he sighed deeply. The human heart was sinister, and the people of the Sacred Mountain were no saints. "Then, who is targeting us from behind?" Mingguang pondered. Su Yu wore a faint smile. "Don't you already have an answer?" Mingguang's face sank. "The great leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe. He actually escaped to the Sacred Mountain. I am also very surprised. Not only did he not escape far away, but he also dared to come to the Sacred Mountain openly. It seems that he is plotting something in the Sacred Mountain." Su Yu's eyes were very deep and full of insight. The price of bribing the people of the Sacred Mountain was incalculable. Moreover, even a registered person was bribed. It was unknown how many people of the Sacred Mountain would be bribed. This despicable person, trying to use such a despicable trick to make us retreat? Mingguang said disdainfully. Su Yu shook his head gently. "No. He is warning us to leave the Sacred Mountain, or he will make things difficult for us." The meaning conveyed by the other party was very clear. He had enough power to control the people of the Sacred Mountain and put them in trouble. Ming Dai snorted. The people of the Sacred Mountain are also a group of mobs, and they were actually bribed by an outsider. Mingguang was silent for a long time, and looked at Su Yu solemnly. "Senior Su, please make an idea. If the people of the Sacred Mountain made things difficult for them, as a tribe ruled by the Sacred Mountain, they had no room to resist. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir," Su Yu said slowly. "To offer the power of faith, they needed to wait for the King of Darkness to show up. At present, the King of Darkness was still in deep isolation, and he would only show up after 5 days to meet the leaders of the various tribes. For 3 consecutive days, Ming Dai wandered around in boredom. Not knowing whether it was intentional or not, the guest rooms they lived in were all tribes that had conflicts or unpleasant experiences with the Rising Sun tribe. Ming Dai went out for a walk, but not only did it not relieve her boredom, but it also made her even more depressed. On the 4th day, a group of 20 people in snow robes came to the T-shaped guest room one by one, and routinely checked the statues sent by the tribe. Because it had happened in the past, some tribes held a fluke attitude and handed over the empty statues, thinking that the King of Darkness would not look at them one by one. But what kind of person was the King of Darkness? He could see through the truth at a glance. After that, the King of Darkness was furious in court and executed the tribal leader, implicating the group of servants. Several servants in charge of receiving the tribe were executed by the furious King of Darkness. Since then, every time they offered the power of faith, the servants would check the black statues sent by the tribe one by one, to see if there was any power of faith in them. If there were any who tried to pass it off as genuine, and held a fluke attitude, it would not be as simple as being banished from the mountain, but locked up in the jail of the holy mountain, and punished by the servants. None of the tribal representatives who were punished came back alive. It was very clear where they were going. 20 servants stood at the entrance of the T-shaped guest room. The one in the lead had a purple armband on his arm, showing that his status was not ordinary. Ming Dai stared at him, and gritted her teeth. Because he was the snow-robed person who arranged for them to stay in the T-shaped room a few days ago. At this moment, he led a group of servants to stand at the entrance. Although he did not say a word, the aura of superiority was obvious, causing the noisy T-shaped guest room to quickly quiet down. It is the second-class holy servant Jiang Fei Yun. This time, he is actually personally inspecting the statues. Strange, in the past, it was always the third-class holy servants who did it. When did the second-class holy servants have so much free time? Shoo! Be quiet, everyone cooperate obediently, no matter what the holy servant says, do not refute. The group of representatives from the small tribes kept quiet out of fear. Jiang Fei Yun glanced at them coldly and said, "Before the official inspection, I would like to advise the tribe representatives who are still hoping to get out of the holy mountain now, and we can still spare you. But if we find out that there is a problem with the power of faith later, it will not be as simple as leaving the holy mountain." His threatening words made the representatives of the small tribes feel uneasy. Although they had no intention of cheating, they were still not confident enough to re-inspect the power of faith they had brought, afraid that the other party would make things difficult for them. After waiting for a moment, no tribe left. Jiang Fei Yun's lips curled into a cold smile. "Now we will start the inspection one by one. Everyone must cooperate. If you do not obey, you will be severely punished." Under his lead, the group of small tribe leaders did not dare resist, carefully handing over the power of faith to them for inspection. The small tribes that had passed the inspection all heaved a sigh of relief, as if they had just passed by the gates of hell. Their inspection speed was very fast, and it was not long before it was Su Yu's turn. 20 holy servants surrounded their ice cave, and Jiang Fei Yun walked out with an indifferent face. "Take out your power of faith." Mingguang cast a questioning look at Su Yu. He had a bad feeling. The other party seemed to be coming for them. Su Yu nodded slightly, motioning for Mingguang to take out the storage device. Mingguang nodded slightly, cupped his fists at Jiang Fei Yun, and took out a golden bag from his waist. It contained the power of faith that the Rising Sun tribe had collected for 200 years. A total of 10,000 black statues were neatly placed in the center. Each statue was full of the power of faith, and there was absolutely no falsification. Jiang Fei Yun took it expressionlessly, and probed it with his soul for a moment. Although Mingguang was worried, he was not afraid that the other party would make things difficult in this regard. The Rising Sun tribe had carefully prepared the power of faith, and there was absolutely no fault to be found. "Not bad." Jiang Fei Yun retracted his soul and nodded slightly. "The power of faith is very sufficient, there is no problem, let's go." Chapter 19:15. This made them very puzzled. Could it be that Su Yu's speculation was wrong, and they had misunderstood Jiang Fei Yun? Su Yu pondered and suddenly said, "Mingguang, check your storage space immediately." Mingguang's heart trembled and he immediately checked again. But there was nothing strange. The statues were neither missing nor damaged. At that moment, suddenly, the leader of a small tribe that had been checked suddenly screamed, "Oh no, my statue of faith has been stolen." This scream immediately attracted the attention of most of the small tribes. The holy servants who had not gone far also turned their head. Jiang Feiyun's face was calm and he lightly said, "Presumptuous. The holy mountain is a holy place, how could there be a theft?" That small tribe was an unknown new small tribe. The leader's first offering of faith had been lost. He panicked and said, "Holy servant, I would never dare to lie. Everything I said is true." Jiang Feiyun frowned slightly and led his people back. He stared at the leader of the small tribe and repeated, "Since you are so sure, then I cannot sit back and do nothing. Otherwise, it will damage the reputation of the holy mountain. Bring me your storage space, I will check again." After he handed it over, Jiang Feiyun glanced at it and said coldly, "Presumptuous. There were 200 statues just now, and there are still 200 now. How could it be lost? Come, this person is disturbing the worship of faith, capture him." "My lord, I did not lie. There were originally 300 statues, but now I found out that 100 are missing." Jiang Feiyun coldly snorted. "You mean I stole 100 of your statues?" "I dare not." The little leader said, "I suspect that it was stolen by a tribe that had contacted me before." Jiang Feiyun calmed down and said, "There is no evidence. How can you say that someone stole your statues?" "Yes, I have evidence." The little leader hurriedly said, "My black statues have been marked by me. It is easy to identify them." Jiang Feiyun pondered for a moment, then nodded lightly and solemnly said, "This is not a trivial matter. Since you have evidence, I will investigate to the end. Tell me, which tribes have contacted you?" The leader pondered and said, "There was no complete physical contact, but the girl of the Rising Sun tribe is very suspicious. She walked back and forth near my tribe several times. I suspect that she used some kind of secret method to steal my black statue from a distance." Seeing this scene, Ming Dai's face immediately turned red with anger, and she angrily shouted, "Shameless! Our Rising Sun tribe is a medium-sized tribe. Why would we need to steal a statue from a small tribe?" The sales leader, however, was exceptionally certain and said, "If you don't believe me, you can ask others if this woman has been wandering around my tribe." Jiang Feiyun nodded and ordered people to ask around. First of all, Ming Dai had been wandering around for the past few days, so it was reasonable to say that she was wandering around the ice cave of this little leader. Secondly, the relationship between the nearby small tribes and the Rising Sun tribe was not harmonious. Naturally, they would not conceal or cover up for the Rising Sun tribe. "Sir, this woman has indeed been walking around this leader many times. She is very suspicious." The holy servant who had returned concluded. Jiang Feiyun fixed his gaze on the Rising Sun tribe again and walked over with the 20 divine servants. Behind him was the junior leader, who was gnashing his teeth in anger. "This matter is of great importance. It is necessary to re-examine your statues," Jiang Feiyun said calmly. Suddenly, Mingguang's heart beat wildly, and a bad feeling instantly surged into his heart. Trap! It's a trap! Just now, when Jiang Feiyun explored his storage space, he must have taken the opportunity to replace the 100 statues with this little leader's statue. Once it was inspected, he would definitely find the 100 statues. At that time, they would not be able to explain themselves. Stealing faith in the holy mountain was more serious than taking an empty statue with a fluke mentality. Perhaps it would not only be a matter of death, but it would also implicate the entire Rising Sun tribe, bringing irreparable devastating damage. What a good move! This was to pull the entire Rising Sun tribe into the abyss of eternal damnation. Mingguang's forehead was covered with layers of sweat, and he looked extremely nervous. His mind was blank, and he didn't know how to solve it. Jiang Feiyun's face sank slightly. "Rising Sun tribe leader, do you need me to say it again? Please hand over your space storage device and accept the inspection." Mingguang's hands kept trembling in his sleeves, and his lips squirmed a few times. Seeing that Jiang Feiyun's eyes gradually turned cold and was about to give the order to seize it, Mingguang had to bite the bullet and retorted, Lord Holy Servant, as my daughter said, there is really no need for us, a medium-sized tribe, to steal the statue of a small tribe. I hope Lord Holy Servant will investigate it clearly and not believe the slander of a villain. Jiang Feiyun said indifferently, I will enforce the law impartially. I don't believe the words of the two of you. I only believe that what I see is true. Since everyone agrees that your Rising Sun tribe is suspected of theft, then please hand over your space storage device and let us inspect it on the spot. Can't you prove your innocence? Or is it because you have a guilty conscience? Mingguang's palms were sweaty. Being forced to this point, he had no choice at all. He could only take out the space storage device while trembling. He hoped that the ending would not turn out the way he had envisioned. But he was desperate to find that Jiang Feiyun's mouth had an imperceptible cold smile. The 23rd class holy servants behind him also secretly tensed up. It was as if they already knew that there must be something they wanted to find in this storage space. It's over. Mingguang's eyes were dim. Even if Su Yu was in charge, could he be presumptuous on the holy mountain? His heart was bitter. The Rising Sun tribe had finally survived a great calamity of extinction, but in the blink of an eye, they had encountered an even more desperate situation. Jiang Feiyun took the space storage device. In order to prove to the people present and let them be fair, he did not explore it a second time. Instead, he directly opened the storage device, poured out all 10,000 statues, and placed them neatly side by side on the ground. The 100 statues were among them. Jiang Feiyun said to the little leader, I have done as you requested and let them display all the statues. Please identify them. The little leader nodded, took out one of his own statues, and said, I have painted the special mark of our tribe on all the statues. As long as one of the marks is activated, all the marks will be activated at the same time. As he spoke, the little leader bit his fingertip and squeezed out a drop of blood essence onto the statue. Suddenly, a clear bloody light appeared on the face of the statue. He glanced at the more than 10,000 statues of the Rising Sun tribe and said, Now, the other 100 statues should also have a bloody light. Jiang Feiyun sneered in his heart, waved his hand and said, Rising Sun tribe, what else do you have to say? Come, catch them, however. He found that the third-class holy servants behind him were all hesitating on the spot. Countless onlookers stared at him in surprise. Jiang Feiyun was slightly startled, and subconsciously looked at the statues of the Rising Sun tribe. After a careful scan, he could not find a statue with a bloody light on its face. How could it be? Those 100 statues were personally replaced by him during the visit. How could there not be one? The little leader was dumbfounded. He looked again and again, but there was nothing. Mingguang and Mingdai, whose hearts sank to the bottom, opened their eyes wide in disbelief, and carefully examined their own statues. There were no marked statues. What was going on? Could it be that they were thinking too much? At this moment, Su Yu, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said indifferently, Little leader, why don't you take out the other 199 statues and compare them to see if the marks are effective? How could it be wrong? However, he took out the other 199 statues. Without exception, all of their faces were blood-red. This meant that the activation had not failed, but that the Rising Sun tribe had not stolen their statues at all. Su Yu said indifferently, Little leader, if you have any other testing methods, please take them out. If not, please come to a conclusion as soon as possible. The Rising Sun tribe has always been upright and upright. Although we are not afraid of confrontation, gossip is a fearful thing. It is better to clarify as soon as possible. The little leader took a deep look at Su Yu and said in a low voice, There is no statue of me in the Rising Sun tribe. He did not deny that the Rising Sun tribe had not stolen it. A hint of coldness appeared on Su Yu's face. At this very moment you should apologize. Otherwise, the Rising Sun tribe has the right to wipe out your tribe while the notice that you can start a war is still in effect. leaving no one alive. The little leader shuddered. He was confident that Jiang Feiyun could destroy the Rising Sun tribe, and that was why he dared to oppose him. Now, the Rising Sun tribe had strangely escaped. If the Rising Sun tribe retaliated, their small tribe would not even be enough to be trampled by the Rising Sun tribe. I am very sorry, I have misunderstood. I ask the Rising Sun tribe to be magnanimous and forgive my rashness. Su Yu retracted his cold intent and said, since it is a misunderstanding, then it is all right. Just as Jiang Feiyun secretly heaved a sigh of relief, Su Yu looked at him. But I would like to ask the second-grade saint's servant. Just now, before the results of the inspection were out, you already knew the results and gave the order to capture him. I wonder if you can predict the future, or if you can predict the future and know that there is a symbol of the little leader among our statues. Suddenly, Jiang Feiyun felt like he was sitting on a pincushion. He explained this. I was also confused by the little leader's solemn vow and took it for granted. That was why I gave the wrong order. This explanation barely made sense. But everyone present, as long as they were not fools, should know that Jiang Feiyun's behavior just now had exposed his premeditated plan. But without concrete evidence, no one could do anything to him. Since it was a misunderstanding, let's end it here, Jiang Feiyun said, secretly thinking about what to do next. If one plan did not work, he still had another plan. Wait, the theft of the statue from the Holy Mountain is no small matter. It concerns the dignity of the King of Darkness. How can we let this matter rest so easily? Su Yu said. At the very least, we have to find the person who stole the statue. Jiang Feiyun frowned. But you are the most suspicious ones. Your suspicions have been cleared, and no one can suspect you anymore. Su Yu's gaze was calm. He said slowly, no. There is another person who is more suspicious than the Rising Sun tribe. Who? Jiang Feiyun's heart moved. He did not know why, but he felt that something was wrong. Chapter 1916. Everyone was stunned. Who? Jiang Feiyun? Many of the tribe leaders smacked their lips and said in a low voice, the Rising Sun tribe is done for. How dare they suspect a second-class saint's servant? Isn't that asking for trouble? Haha, I think the second-class saint's servant has gone too far, forcing the Rising Sun tribe to fight back. It was obvious that the second-class saint's servant had failed to frame them. If he had succeeded, the consequences would have been unimaginable. And if we don't find a way to deal with this second-class saint's servant, I'm afraid there will be more dangerous traps waiting for the Rising Sun tribe. Most of the small tribe leaders secretly agreed with what the latter said. From what the second-class saint's servant had just done, he did not seem like a merciful person. His goal was to destroy the entire Rising Sun tribe. If he thought he would be safe this time, he would be too stupid. Ming Guang and Ming Dai were also secretly surprised. If he suspected a second-class saint's servant, wouldn't that be a direct confrontation? But if outsiders could see it clearly, there was no reason they couldn't see the key point. This second-class saint's servant harbored evil intentions. They had to find a way to get rid of him, otherwise there would be endless trouble. But this was the Holy Mountain, the territory of the saint's servant. It was easier said than done to get rid of a second-class saint's servant. Jiang Feiyun frowned and said coldly, "Are you suspecting me?" Su Yu's expression was indifferent. "Why? Is my words not clear enough? You are the most suspicious person here. If our people passing by the vicinity of the small leader are very suspicious, then as someone who personally touched his space storage device, aren't you even more suspicious?" The small leaders at the side quieted down, ready to watch a good show. What a joke. We, the saint's servants, have always been impartial. Was it necessary to steal the statue? Even if we stole it, what's the use? Jiang Feiyun laughed. The people of the Rising Sun tribe, since this matter has been reduced to a small one, don't be unreasonable. Otherwise, I still have the power to expel you from the mountain. As he spoke, He waved his hand and continued to check the storage devices with the rest of the saint's servants. But Su Yu did not let it go. He said lightly, "Fine, I will ask your first-class saint's servant if I can stay out of the law as a suspicious saint's servant." The saint's servants of the Holy Mountain were also strictly graded. They were divided into 3 classes. There were only 10 first-class holy servants, and they were the top holy servants who were directly responsible to the King of Darkness. Their status was transcendent, and they were above the 2nd and 3rd class sacred attendant. When the Dark King is in closed-door cultivation, the 10 holy servants will have the authority to handle matters on Sacred Mountain on behalf of the Dark King. For someone like Jiang Feiyun, who was clearly a suspect and greatly affected the reputation of the Holy Mountain, yet didn't do anything to clear his name, it was necessary for the first-class holy servants to step forward and severely punish the related people. Sure enough, Jiang Feiyun immediately turned around when he heard this. His eyes were filled with coldness. He didn't expect them to be so difficult to deal with. "Humph. Since you want me to give you an explanation, I will grant your wish." Jiang Feiyun was unhappy. He was unhappy that Su Yu had forced him to examine everyone in public. As for whether there would be any problems, he was very confident that there wouldn't be. It was impossible for those statues to be on him. He took off the pouch on his waist. As a special item, the black statue could not be stored in an ordinary space storage device. It could only be stored in a special pocket-type storage device. This was also the reason why they had only checked their pockets and not their ordinary storage devices. Jiang Feiyun opened the space storage device. He wasn't worried at all, but he still subconsciously glanced inside. However, this glance caused Jiang Feiyun's pupils to shrink. His heart was filled with shock. In his storage device, there were 100 black statues with blood-red faces lying quietly. They were the 100 black statues that the so-called little leader had lost. How could they be in my storage device? He had clearly swapped the 100 black statues with the Rising Sun tribes when he was examining the Rising Sun tribes' space storage device. Why were they still in his storage device? Impossible! Impossible! Suddenly, he raised his head and stared at Su Yu. His eyes met with a pair of deep, cold eyes, and his heart trembled. It's him. It had been very strange from the start. The marked black statues had disappeared and returned to his storage device. He must have done something secretly. What should he do? What should he do? If he poured it out in public, he would be finished. The holy servants had stolen the black statues of the leaders of the small tribes. This was a matter that affected the reputation of the Holy Mountain. Even if the Dark King knew about it, he would skin him alive to appease the anger of the many small tribes. Not to mention the 10 first-grade holy servants. They would not go easy on him. Seeing that he had stopped, the small tribe leaders were secretly surprised. Damn, it can't be. Did the first-grade holy servants really steal the black statues? This is unprecedented. If this gets out, who would dare to let the holy servants inspect in the future? The people of the Holy Mountain would do such a shameful thing. The whispers made Jiang Feiyun's heart clench. He could not let the truth be known to the public. Why don't you open the space storage device and let everyone be a witness? Su Yu said calmly, staring at him quietly. If this person really wanted to make things difficult for him, he would probably let him go. But since he was ruthless and forced them and the entire Rising Sun tribe into a corner, he could not blame him for being ruthless. Jiang Feiyun's face flickered with uncertainty. After a few internal struggles, he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Guards! The people of the Rising Sun tribe are interfering with the holy servants' inspection. They have evil intentions. Arrest them and interrogate them." This action was bound to cause public anger and even attract the attention of the first-grade holy servants. But compared to being exposed and sentenced to death, what harm was there in being criticized? As long as he had enough time, he could go to a secluded area and get rid of the troublesome 100 black statues. The third-grade holy servants behind him were more or less related to this second-grade holy servant. They were bound together for good or bad. Naturally, he did not hesitate to execute the order, pouncing towards Su Yu and the others. He shouted, "The holy servants are on the move. How can you just let yourself be captured? If you resist, kill without mercy." Ming Guang and Ming Dai were furious. It was clear that Jiang Feiyun had a guilty conscience. He had actually arrested them for a groundless reason. Anyone who was arrested by the holy servants would be severely injured, even if they did not die. With the character of this holy servant, it was obvious that they would die. But how could the three of them fight with the holy servant? Even if they had a reason, if they resisted the holy servant, it would still be unreasonable and they would be severely punished. They did not dare to make a move, but Su Yu dared. With a quick step, he flew out and instantly arrived in front of Jiang Feiyun. In fact, his cultivation level was not high, only at the cultivation level of a silver overlord. The reason he could strut around and berate the leaders of the Emperor realm and above was because of his identity. Su Yu casually grabbed the storage space in the other party's pocket. It was effortless. Jiang Feiyun's expression changed. How dare he openly attack the holy servants? Kill him! Su Yu flicked his finger and a space barrier formed in front of Ming Guang and Ming Dai. No matter how they attacked, they could not shake it in the slightest. As for Su Yu, he stood still. They could not do anything to him. Su Yu forcibly erased the imprint left by Jiang Feiyun and poured out all the things in the space. Crash! The black statues with blood-red faces all fell to the ground in front of the crowd. This scene caused an uproar among the crowd. Jiang Feiyun's face was pale, but the fierceness in his eyes deepened. Someone, inform the first-grade holy servants that there is a person with evil intentions who framed the holy servants and insulted the purity of the holy mountain. He deserves to be cut into 1,000 pieces. Hearing this, many of the leaders of the small tribes were furious. The irrefutable evidence had been exposed in public, and he still dared to accuse the Rising Sun tribe. In the eyes of the people of the Holy Mountain, their tribes were pigs and dogs that could be slandered and humiliated at will. Su Yu was silent and did not stop them. At this moment, an indifferent voice floated over. "No need, I am here." Jiang Feiyun's face stiffened and he looked over. Accompanied by 10 second-grade holy servants, a young man in a golden robe slowly walked over. Only one kind of person could wear the golden robe on the Holy Mountain, and that was the first-grade holy servants. Why did he suddenly come? Or had he been here for a long time but had not shown himself? Seeing this, the third-grade holy servants who were attacking stopped and bowed respectfully. Jiang Feiyun came back to his senses and immediately trotted forward. He knelt down and solemnly kowtowed. "Greetings, first-grade holy servant. What happened here?" The first-grade holy servant asked indifferently. Jiang Feiyun did not give the Rising Sun tribe a chance to speak and said, reporting to first-grade holy servant, "The Rising Sun tribe had ill intentions and created trouble to insult the purity of the Holy Mountain. Please give the order to execute them in public as a warning to others." The first-grade holy servant glanced at the crowd and said, "Wait for me to investigate before making a judgment. My lord, I have already investigated clearly. The evidence is conclusive and there is no doubt about it. Please give the order immediately." He did not finish his sentence because the first-grade holy servant was staring at him coldly. Jiang Feiyun immediately shut his mouth, his heart pounding. "Are you the first-grade holy servant or am I?" The first-grade holy servant asked indifferently. Jiang Feiyun lowered his head even more and said hurriedly, "I have been rude." "Then shut up," the first-grade holy servant said expressionlessly. He turned to the 10 second-grade holy servants behind him and said, "Investigate clearly what is going on." The 10 second-grade holy servants spread out and questioned the Rising Sun tribe and the witnesses nearby. Ming Guang naturally came with the truth. The witnesses definitely did not have the guts to deceive the first-grade holy servant for a second-grade holy servant. Moreover, Jiang Feiyun's actions made them feel bitterly disappointed. Therefore, no one covered up for him and explained the ins and outs of the matter clearly. The 10 second-grade holy servants returned and reported the ins and outs of the matter that they had inquired about. It was almost exactly the same. Everyone accused Jiang Feiyun of stealing someone else's sculpture. Moreover, after being exposed, not only did he not admit to his crimes, he even made a false accusation. His attitude was bad and arrogant, causing a negative impact. The first-grade holy servant's eyes were indifferent. He looked at Jiang Feiyun and said coldly, "Do you have anything else to say?" Jiang Feiyun's face was ashen. His heart was filled with despair and resentment. He glared at Su Yu and said, "My death is not to be regretted, but Su Yu publicly attacked the holy servant. This is unforgivable. He should die with me." When the leaders of the small tribes heard this, they felt a lump in their throat. They could not spit it out. What a joke! Not only did Jiang Feiyun refuse to accept their inspection, but he also wanted to capture the Rising Sun tribe. Under such circumstances, what could they do if they wanted to expose Jiang Feiyun? Other than snatching the storage device, there was no other way. Chapter 1917. However, the first saint's servant said indifferently, "I will ask the king of An whether he deserves the death penalty. I believe the king of An will understand that he was forced to act after listening to the whole story. As for you, you are guilty of many crimes and have seriously tarnished the reputation of the Holy Mountain. People like you can kill first and report later." After saying that, the first saint's servant slapped his head. "No. Why is he not dead? I refuse to accept this." Jiang Feiyun did not understand why Su Yu was exempted. In the past, when someone attacked a saint's servant, the tribal leader was killed on the spot as a warning to others. Only this time, it was unknown what this first-grade sacred attendant was thinking, but he actually protected this person. However, so what if he was unwilling? His head was smashed like a watermelon, and he could not be more dead. The first saint's servant said indifferently, "The second saint's servant Jiang Feiyun stole the statue of the tribal leader and has a bad influence. He will be executed in public. All saints' servants must wake up and not follow in his footsteps." "Yes, Lord." At the same time, the tribal leaders present breathed a sigh of relief. Although the Holy Mountain had scum like Jiang Feiyun, fortunately, the Holy Mountain had strict laws and strict management. There were first saint servants who enforced the law impartially and could eliminate scum in time. Therefore, the Holy Mountain could still be trusted. The first saint servant finally looked at the Rising Sun tribe. "Since you are a medium-sized tribe, go to the third room immediately." Ming Dai was overjoyed. She had long felt wronged. Seeing the first saint servant redress her grievances, she was overjoyed. Fortunately, the Holy Mountain had such a sensible first saint servant in front of her. Only Mingguang was deep in thought. Based on his understanding of the saint servants, the first saint servants were superior and rarely asked about the affairs of small and medium-sized tribes. It was fine that this person came uninvited to uphold justice, but he also paid special attention to their living environment, which was somewhat unusual. Under the guidance of the saint servant, under the hopeful eyes of a group of small tribal leaders, they left the fourth room area and came to the third room. What was strange was that the first saint servant actually followed them. "Mingguang, Ming Dai, wait outside for a moment. I have something to say to the first saint servant," Su Yu said slowly. Mingguang was shocked. He had long felt that there was something wrong with the appearance of the first saint servant. Now it seemed that it was related to Su Yu. At this moment, there was a storm in his heart. He had thought that Su Yu was just a passerby who had come to the Holy Mountain. But now, he had gotten to know the first-class holy servant. Ming Dai's eyes widened, her face filled with disbelief. The two of them entered the house, and Suyu casually set up a space barrier to prevent spying and eavesdropping. "Greetings, Lord Su. I didn't expect you to be a human." The first-class holy servant cupped his fists and revealed a nostalgic smile. Suyu laughed heartily. "This is no longer the secret realm of the Daesun clan. You are no longer a captive of the Daesun clan, and I am no longer the lord who commands you. So, where did this lord come from?" The first-grade saint attendant before him was none other than the person from the Holy Land whom he had met in the White Sun clan's mystic realm, Wang Dahu. After Suyu subdued the captives, he chose Wang Dahu as his representative to manage the captive. The captives who came from all over were not convinced. They all revealed their identities. Among them, there were even disciples from the world's #1 sect, the Cloud Mist God Mountain. The most shocking one was Wang Dao. From the Holy Land, Suyu had a jade talisman that he had used to contact Wang Dao. This time, he had dared to come to the Holy Mountain to search for the scabbard and the formation stone. However, Suyu was also a little surprised that Wang Dahu's position in the Holy Mountain was so high. He was one of the 10 first-class holy servants. When Jiang Feiyun and the others had come to provoke him, Suyu had secretly used the jade talisman to contact Wang Dao. That was why he had appeared at such a coincidental time. "It's only right for me to call you Lord. If it weren't for you, perhaps I would have become food for the blood breeds, or perhaps I would still be imprisoned by the White Sun clan, living a life of darkness." Wang Dahu recalled the past, and his heart was filled with gratitude. After meeting Suyu, he had thought highly of him and even promoted him to manage all the captive. He had never looked down on him. Hence, Wang Dahu was grateful. Knowing that Suyu had come to the Holy Mountain, he had immediately rushed over. This was the first time he had seen Suyu's true appearance. He could not help but be surprised to find out that Suyu was a human from a lowly race. Suyu's demon-like intelligence and meticulous planning skills were unforgettable to Wang Dao. It was indeed unexpected that someone with such extraordinary intelligence would be a human. "It was nothing. Don't worry about it. Instead, I have to trouble you this time," Suyu said. Wang Dahu nodded. "I knew that Lord must have something important to do for you to come to the Holy Mountain. Please tell me directly. As long as I can help, I will not refuse." Suyu said, "I want to know, how difficult is it to enter the holy lake of the Holy Mountain?" Wang Dahu's expression changed. "Lord, you want to enter the holy lake? That is the place where the King of Darkness trains in seclusion." Suyu's expression changed as well. From his solitary dream, he remembered that the scabbard had been stored in the holy lake of the Holy Mountain many years ago. If he wanted to obtain the scabbard, he would have to enter the holy lake to search for it. Who knew that it was the place where the King of Darkness trained? Looking for the scabbard there was no different from entering the tiger's den. The level of danger was so high that it was comparable to death. It was no exaggeration to say that it was the most dangerous place in the entire Dark Star civilization. What was the cultivation of the King of Darkness? Even if he came out of seclusion, he only needed to use his mind to scan the place, and he would immediately discover the abnormality of the place. If outsiders wanted to go in to search for the scabbard, they would have to be prepared to die. Suyu's eyes darkened. He had put in so much effort to come to the Holy Mountain. Was he going to give up just like that? "Lord, what is the purpose of entering the Holy Lake?" Wang Dahu's eyes flashed as he asked. Suyu pondered for a moment and said, "The scabbard of the Emperor Killer Sword is in the Holy Lake." The Emperor Killer Sword was causing chaos in the Dark Star civilization. Wang Dahu had no reason not to know about it, but this was the first time he had heard about the scabbard. So it is for the Emperor Killer Sword. Wang Dahu understood Suyu's determination. After pondering for a moment, he gritted his teeth and said, "All right, I can find a way to bring you into the Holy Lake, but I have never seen the scabbard you mentioned. I don't know if I can find it." Suyu was shocked. Aren't you afraid that the King of Darkness will find out that we have entered the Holy Lake? Wang Daha said, You don't have to worry too much about that. The Holy Lake is filled with too much power of faith. Even the King of Darkness can't penetrate it with his consciousness. The problem is that when the King of Darkness leaves the Holy Lake, he will set up a seal at the level of a four-crown emperor. Do you have a way to break the seal? This Su Yu's eyes, which had just lit up, dimmed again. The seal of a four-crown emperor could only be broken with brute force, but it would definitely cause a great commotion. Even a three-crown emperor could easily sense it, let alone a four-crown emperor. He was afraid that he would be discovered immediately. Wang Dahu sighed. If you have no way to deal with the seal, I advise you to give up. Right at that moment, the 9-jade spiritual pearl on Su Yu's wrist suddenly emitted a cloud of pink mist. The mist gathered in front of them, revealing a small pink Kylin lying on the ground. Its front paws rested on the ground and it stretched lazily. It said lazily, With me here, what is there to be afraid of about the seal? Su Yu was delighted. Little Kylin? You are awake. The last time he entered the 9-jade spiritual pearl, the little Kylin showed signs of awakening. Calculating the time, it was indeed time for it to wake up. However, Su Yu was very surprised. Our conversation, you can hear it? The little Kylin's body was in the 9-jade spiritual pearl, which was an isolated space. How could it possibly listen to the conversation outside? The little Kylin tilted its ear and deliberately shouted, What are you talking about? I can't hear you. Su Yu gave it a knock on the head impatiently. Speak seriously. The little Kylin immediately held its head and wiped away its tears. It said in an aggrieved tone, How can you treat a divine beast like this? Be careful that I change my master and throw myself into the warm embrace of someone else. Seeing that Su Yu had hit it again, the little Kylin hurriedly rolled on the ground and said, Can't I speak? Its whole body trembled, and a faintly discernible power of nothingness condensed on the surface of its body. The power of nothingness pierced a huge hole in the space barrier that Su Yu had condensed. The power of nothingness! Su Yu was secretly surprised. The last time he had checked, he had discovered that the little Kylin's body contained a faint power of nothingness. He didn't expect it to be true. Now, it could even directly use the power of nothingness. In front of the power of nothingness, all barriers are useless, including the seal that you mentioned. I can pass through it at any time without any obstruction. Su Yu was delighted when he heard that. He then asked, So, is it only effective against you, or can it allow me to go in with it? Currently, my power of nothingness is limited, so I can only carry 2 people. Any more than that won't do. 2 people was enough. Okay, I'll depend on you this time. Su Yu was relieved. He didn't expect that the little Kylin would help him so much when it had just woken up. The little Kylin extended its right claw elegantly and proudly raised its neck. Su Yu was confused, so he asked, What's wrong? Since you have raised me for so many years and have worked so hard for me, I will allow you to lick my foot. This is your reward, the little Kylin said leisurely. It was like a noble princess. Get lost. Su Yu kicked it, and the little Kylin rolled on the ground several times. The little Kylin climbed up dejectedly and said bitterly, Hey, if you keep doing this, I will really run away from home. Okay, leave and don't come back. I believe the people of the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce will definitely get you at all costs. The little Kylin raised its neck high, and its short tail kept wagging. It said proudly, That is because I am precious and unique. Yes, so they will try their best to breed with you, give birth to many strange descendants, and then sell them. The little Kylin's body stiffened, and its eyes were filled with fear. Really? If you don't believe me, you can ask him. The little Kylin turned its head to look at Wang Dahu, who was dumbfounded. Hey, is what he said true? Wang Dahu nodded blankly. Isn't it normal to breed with rare exotic beasts? It's the same for them to fall into the hands of our King of Darkness. The little Kylan took a deep breath, and immediately ran to Su Yu's feet and rubbed its head against his thigh. Ahem. What I said about running away from home is actually going outside to bask in the sun, drink some tea, and then come back after eating some buns. Master, you are so wise and powerful. How can I really bear to leave? Oh, then go back and rest. It will be troublesome if someone sees you. The little Kylan nodded hurriedly and muttered, The outside world is too dangerous. It is safer in the spiritual pearl. Chapter 1918. Su Yu smiled faintly but did not speak. There was more than one extraordinary one. If he had seen Xiao Dai, who ate everything, what would he think? Since the seal has a way to deal with it, then it's easy. Wang Dahu nodded and said, 3 days later, the King of Darkness will come out of seclusion and meet the leaders of the various tribes. That will be the best time to enter the sacred pond. After hearing what was said, Su Yu stared at Wang Dahu with slight hesitation. I am really sorry for making you take such a big risk. Wang Dahu said indifferently, It's all thanks to you that I'm able to come back alive. So what if I take the risk for you? Also, Sacred Mountain is no longer the sacred mountain of the past, and the King of Darkness is no longer the King of Darkness. If I have a choice, I want to leave Sacred Mountain. Su Yu was secretly surprised. As a first-grade holy servant, how could she have such a rebellious thought? Also, the so-called King of Darkness is not the former King of Darkness. Did it have any deeper meaning? This was a matter of the Holy Mountain, so it was not convenient for Su Yu to inquire further. He nodded and said, Then I shall trouble you. 3 days later. The leaders of the large, medium, and small tribes were all looking forward to it. Today was the day that the Holy King would come out of seclusion and meet them. Suddenly, the air on the sacred mountain became colder. A snow-white ball of ice rose from the back of the icy peak, hanging in the sky above the sacred mountain like an ice sun. All the sacred servants on the sacred mountain lowered their heads respectfully. The representatives of the tribes also bowed deeply in awe. Su Yu was a little surprised. Was the Holy King inside? Was he not going to show himself? At this moment, a golden-robed first-class holy servant raised his voice. Leader, please bring the faith statue to the holy temple. On the highest peak of the frozen mountain, there was an incomparably large ice palace. A beam of icy light shot out from the ice sun, and a projection descended, sitting steadily on the throne of the sacred hall. His entire body was surrounded by icy light, making it impossible to see his face clearly. He was the King of Darkness. Mingguang said, Senior Su Mingdai, you two can wait in the guest room. The two nodded slightly. Mingdai glanced at Su Yu, her eyes flickering with hesitation. After her father left, Mingdai pursed her lips and said, Senior Su, what are your plans after leaving the sacred mountain? His goal was to ascend the sacred mountain. Would he return to the Rising Sun tribe after the matter was completed? Probably not. Or will he stay because of me? After spending half a year together, Su Yu had not only helped her solve the hidden danger of her soul, but he had also gifted her with an exceptionally precious rootless purple emperor wood. She could not think of any other reason why Su Yu would do such a thing, apart from the fact that Su Yu had taken a liking to her. I'm looking for my wife, Su Yu said, dispelling the feelings that had just sprouted in her heart. Sure enough, Ming Dai's eyes darkened slightly, and the budding feelings in her heart were immediately erased by his words. He had a wife. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Am I overthinking things? Senior, I have a question. Why did you help me so much? Ming Dai was a little unwilling, but she still felt lucky. Su Yu looked at her and said calmly, Because when I first saw you, I saw her shadow in you. So it was like that, Ming Dai's last hope was extinguished. That made sense. After a while, Ming Dai said in a low voice, Your wife is really a lucky person. Su Yu was startled for a moment, and a deep sense of guilt welled up in his heart. It should be said that meeting him was Xiener's greatest misfortune, right? Extinguishing the feelings in Ming Dai's heart, Suyu stood up slowly and said, "Dear, it's time to say goodbye to you." "What? Senior Su, you're leaving now?" Ming Dai's heart felt empty, as if she had lost something. Suyu looked into her eyes and nodded. "Take care." After that, "I'm sorry." All of a sudden, a soul light shot out from his eyes. Ming Dai felt her vision darken, and she fainted on the spot. After settling her down, Suyu pushed the door open. Wang Dahu, who was dressed in a golden robe, was waiting outside. "My lord, have you arranged everything?" Suyu nodded. Wang Dahu took out a set of third-grade holy servants' silver robe and asked Suyu to change into it. After getting ready, the two of them went to the ice valley where the ice sun rose. There were holy servants guarding along the way, but with Wang Dahu leading the way, no one dared to question Suyu, let alone check his identity. The holy pond is at the bottom of the ice valley. The holy servants along the way are easy to deal with, but we have to be extra careful with the holy beast that the King of Darkness raises, Wang Dahu said. Suyu frowned slightly. Holy beast? How is its cultivation? 3 Crown Emperor level. Is it difficult to deal with? Suyu pondered. Even if the King of Darkness had the White Emperor's puppet with him, it would be very difficult to kill it without alerting anyone. Wang Dahu said, "It's not difficult to deal with. It is in a state of deep sleep all year round. As long as it doesn't make too much noise, it won't wake up." That was good. The cold air in the ice valley was even more intense. Even with Suyu's cultivation, he couldn't help but feel a piercing pain. When did the holy mountain become a snow mountain? Suyu had read the ancient books in the Rising Sun tribe. The holy mountain used to be shrouded in the light of the dark moon, and there was never any cold air. Later, it became a snow mountain. However, when it changed was not specified. Wang Dahu said, "Since the King of Darkness was injured, it has always been covered in ice and snow." Suyu's eyes turned slightly. "You mean, the King of Darkness was injured?" "Yes, a strong man from an extraterrestrial civilization, who was a 4-crown emperor, invaded. Although the King of Darkness defeated him, he was also seriously injured. These years, he has been recuperating in the cold environment, and he has not fully recovered." It was surprising that he could still get such information. However, the King of Darkness, who was injured, was still able to kill the first-generation Wind Cloud Manor Master, which showed that the King of Darkness was really powerful. As the two talked, they had already reached the bottom of the valley, in front of a huge ice wall. Inside the ice wall, a 500-foot-long white snake could be seen with the naked eye. Its body was covered with green snake scales, lying motionless, and it was in a deep sleep. Its breath was extremely powerful, and it was the existence of a 3-crown emperor. Moreover, because it had been following the King of Darkness for a long time, it also carried a trace of the pressure of a 4-crown emperor, giving people a very dangerous feeling. The two did not make any noise, and quietly walked into the ice cave next to them. They breathed a sigh of relief and slowly entered. However, what they did not know was that shortly after they entered, the white snake opened its eyes lightly. Its dim yellow eyes glanced sideways at the ice cave. They had been discovered by the holy beast raised by the King of Darkness. The two of them had a smooth journey, and after walking in the ice cave for half an hour, they finally reached the end. In front of us is where the seal is. In the past, when the first-class holy servants had important things to report, we would kneel in front of the seal to report inside, and then listen to the instructions of the King of Darkness. Suyu nodded slightly and called out the little Kylan. Whether they could successfully cross the seal this time, they would have to rely on the power of nothingness of the little Kylan. Realizing that Suyu attached great importance to it, the little Kylan was surprisingly not naughty, but prepared seriously. However, when they came to the seal, they could not help but be surprised. A powerful round of powerful seals across the entire ice cave was torn apart from the middle by the tyrannical magical artifact in their eyes, and it was split into two. Wang Dahe was stunned and immediately realized that something was wrong and said in a low voice, "Someone rushed ahead of us and broke into the holy pond." Su Yu's face changed slightly. Chapter 1919. Feeling anxious, Su Yu immediately flashed into it. As soon as he entered, the powerful power of faith hit him in the face, weakening Su Yu's senses. He could only see everything clearly with his naked eyes. Wang Dahe followed closely behind and said, "This is the first time I have entered this place. Please be careful." The training place of the King of Darkness was not large. It was an empty cave that was hundreds of feet square. There were only some simple furnishings and a thin layer of the power of faith left. Just like the moon-worshipping sect's spiritual pool of faith, the holy pool was also a place where the power of faith was stored. What made Su Yu's face fall was that this place had obviously been turned over. The meditation cushions, tables, chairs, and furnishings had all been moved. Obviously, the person who broke the seal had searched this place. Su Yu flashed over and searched quickly. After a while, his eyes flashed with cold light. There was no trace of the scabbard. If the King of Darkness did not carry it with him, then it should have been taken by the person who came first. Who was it? To be able to break the seal of the Four-Crown Emperor without anyone knowing, this person must be very powerful. Could it be that after countless years of hard work, he had come here in vain? There seems to be another world under this pool. The little Kylan jumped to the edge of the spiritual pool and looked curiously at the bottom of the pool with a pair of purple crystal eyes. A mechanism? Su Yu flew over and separated the thin layer of power of faith with his divine power. He was surprised to find that there was a dark passage at the bottom of the pool, extending deep underground. However, there was a layer of seal blocking the underground entrance, so the power of faith did not flow down. Their senses were seriously affected by the power of faith. Only the little Kylan had the power of nothingness, so its senses were not affected much. Wang Dahe was surprised. "I have never heard that there is another world under the holy pool." Su Yu's eyes were thoughtful. He raised the tip of his sword and found that this layer of seal only served to isolate the power of faith and prevent it from flowing into the underground passage. It could not be opened. With a casual lift, the seal was opened. "Let's go down and have a look." Su Yu flashed inside, followed by Wang Dahe and the little Kylan. Along the underground passage, they arrived at the ground full of lava in a few breaths. Amidst the boiling lava, there was actually a cross stuck in the lava. It was staring at a bloody mess of flesh. It was said to be a lump of flesh because his entire body could no longer be seen clearly. All that was left was a smelly, blurry, and pitch-black lump of flesh. However, his body was emitting a powerful aura. Four-Crown Emperor. Su Yu's pupils contracted slightly, and he immediately put up his guard. Wang Dahe sized him up in surprise. He asked in confusion, "Don't tell me he's the Four-Crown Emperor from outer space who barged into the Dark Star civilization back then?" It was rumored that the Dark King defeated that intruder and suppressed him under the sacred mountain. Every full moon, he would let out a blood-curdling scream that echoed throughout the sacred mountain. Su Yu had heard this rumor many times. He didn't expect it to be true. That's strange. Why didn't the King of Darkness kill him? Su Yu touched his chin and put his doubts aside. He then looked around for the scabbard. If it wasn't here, then it would be impossible to find it again. Suddenly, little Qilin's sharp eyes discovered that the cross was actually stabbed 3 feet deep into the wood, an empty scabbard. Only a small part of it was exposed, and if the small Kylan didn't have sharp eyes, Su Yu wouldn't have noticed it. The scabbard! Su Yu was overjoyed. The scabbard was finally found. However, he then thought deeply. It seemed that the person who barged into the sacred pond didn't discover this hidden underground secret room. While thinking, Su Yu walked towards the cross and was about to take the scabbard. Suddenly, little Qilin's 4 claws scratched the ground uneasily, and its whole body tensed up. It stared at the entrance from which they came and growled, "Someone is here, Someone very, very powerful. The power of faith didn't block its senses, and it discovered that a powerful aura had appeared in the sacred pond above. Su Yu and Wang Dahu's faces changed dramatically. At this moment, who else could have appeared in the sacred pond other than the Dark King? Oh no, the Dark King came back early. Wang Dahu was shocked. How could this happen? Why would the Dark King come back early? He should have just started to meet the tribe leaders now. But no matter what, they were completely finished. The sacred pond was in a mess. The Dark King must have known about it, and he would definitely come to this place under the sacred pond to find out what was going on. They had barged into the tiger's den, but they were blocked in the cave by the tiger that had returned home. "Come to me quickly." Little Qilin jumped onto Su Yu's shoulder and said to Wang Dao. Wang Dahu didn't notice it at all, and he rushed over immediately. Without saying anything, little Qilin ejected extremely dangerous power of nothingness from its body, which turned into a 10 feet wide ball, wrapping itself, Su Yu, and Wang Dahu in it. Behind his ear, little Qilin said, "Quick, jump into the lava." Soon, 2 people and 1 beast dove into the lava. With the isolation of the power of nothingness, outsiders couldn't detect their aura at all. As long as they didn't reveal themselves, there wouldn't be much of a problem. Almost at this moment, a middle-aged man in armor walked out from the dark underground entrance. His entire body was covered in cold light. He had a head of dark red hair, and his eyes were dim yellow, with a domineering divine light that looked down on the world. He stood at the entrance with his hands clasped behind his back, and his eyes narrowed as he looked around. When he found that the flesh on the cross was still intact, he heaved a sigh of relief. "Humph! How dare you break into my forbidden training area when I am not here?" He was undoubtedly the Dark King. Walking up to the cross with his hands clasped behind his back, the Dark King looked at the scabbard embedded in the cross and said indifferently, "The secret of the scabbard, are you going to tell me or not?" The meat wriggled a little, and it turned out to be a living thing. "Heh heh. Don't even think about it." The meat replied vaguely and weakly. The Dark King snorted coldly and said, "Then you can continue to stay here, and you will be tortured every day until you are willing to tell me." When he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Su Yu and the other 2 in the lava saw everything clearly in front of them. Wang Dahu said telepathically, "The scabbard you are looking for is indeed the scabbard in the cross, but why didn't the Dark King take it away? Why did you say there was a secret?" Su Yu was also surprised. He didn't hear anything about the secret of the scabbard from Gu Xing's dream. Perhaps even Gu Xing didn't know about it. "Maybe," Su Yu said calmly. Wang Dahu said, "Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and take the scabbard, and when the Dark King returns to the Sage Palace to meet the tribe leader, we can take the opportunity to leave the sacred pool, or we will be trapped here for the rest of our lives." Su Yu didn't say anything, and he even pressed his shoulder down and said slowly, "Don't you think it's strange that the Dark King came back early?" There was only one answer, and that was that he knew someone would enter the sacred pool while he was away. Therefore, the Dark King probably didn't leave. Right at this moment, an unexpected scene appeared. Not far away from them, a figure stealthily rushed out from the magma. He had a scholarly temperament, but he only had one eye. Who this person was, it was obvious. The great leader of the Wolf Smoke tribe. He actually snuck into the forbidden training area of the Dark King. The great leader came in front of the meat and said hurriedly, "Tell me the secret of the scabbard, and I will save you and leave immediately." As expected, he came for the scabbard. The meat wriggled a little, but didn't respond. Right at this moment, a cold voice came from the shadow of the entrance. "You are hiding in the lava, indeed." A majestic figure stepped out of the shadow, and who else could it be but the Dark King? He didn't leave at all. Chapter 1920. "You know I'm here?" The great leader's face paled. His heart was shrouded in fear. The Dark King walked out with his hands behind his back and looked at him indifferently. "Do you really think I'm blind? You've been bribing my holy servants for all these years just so you could sneak in when I left the holy pond, right? The great leader's heart trembled. Something was stuck in his throat. He could not speak. As it turned out, the Dark King had seen all his little tricks over the past few centuries. Tell me, who are you? How did you know he was imprisoned here? How did you know the secret of the scabbard? The Dark King stared at the great leader calmly. The great leader's eyes shook violently. He gritted his teeth and pulled out a blood-stained cloak. Then he sprinted toward the entrance. However, the Dark King only flicked his finger casually, and the great leader flew back uncontrollably. He slammed into the stone wall with a loud bang. The cloak with astonishing defensive power on his body showed signs of being frozen and damaged. The Dark King was slightly surprised. He stared at the cloak on his body. Oh? This is a defensive cloak, specially made by the immortal weaver race of a 5-star civilization, right? It's never appeared in my dark star civilization. He studied the lightly injured great leader and said, I'm getting more and more curious about your identity. With that, a layer of ice suddenly appeared on the surface of the great leader's body. Startling coldness shot out from his body and froze his body. The great leader was shocked. He took out a fiery red bead in a hurry and swallowed it. The powerful flames entered his body and chased away most of the coldness. He could actually block an attack from the Dark King with an arcane treasure. It had to be said that the number of powerful treasures on him was astonishing. Afterwards, the great leader took out a pitch-black formation disc and threw it on the ground. A powerful teleportation force appeared on the spot. Not only did it pass through the power of faith, but it also passed through the entire holy mountain. One had to know that this place was filled with the pressure of the Dark King. There was also the powerful interference power of faith and the existence of the holy mountain. The probability of using teleportation here was almost zero. But the great leader had done it. In an instant, more than half of his body was teleported away. With a single thought, he would be able to leave this place. Su Yu was secretly surprised as he watched. Back then, when he had really fought with the great leader, if he had not used his last life-saving technique, it would have been very difficult to kill him. The King of Darkness said calmly, "You should be a being from an extraterrestrial civilization, right? A body full of Dharma treasures from the outer realms." Without seeing the King of Darkness do anything, the formation that the big leader took out immediately cracked and the teleportation formation scattered. The great leader's face was as dark as the water. His mood had hit rock bottom. But he didn't give up without a fight. He took out a talisman with several layers of seals. After the talisman exploded, it turned into a layer of golden light that enveloped him in 3 layers. The degree of defense was actually comparable to a 4-crown emperor. Dark King, instead of killing me, why don't we work together and explore the secrets of the scabbard together? My master is also very interested in the scabbard. The great leader said in a low voice, "You are injured. Even if you obtain the secret of the scabbard, it will be very difficult for you to do anything." The King of Darkness's dim yellow eyes turned into a trace of mockery. "Injured? Regretfully, you only heard rumors." The King of Darkness stepped over and pressed his palm lightly on the golden light barrier. In an instant, the 4-crown emperor-level defensive barrier crumbled into pieces. To be able to do this with a casual attack, it meant that his strength didn't decrease at all. The news of him being injured was just a rumor. Since he wasn't injured, why did he still turn Sacred Mountain into an ice mountain and change the appearance of Sacred Mountain? The defense was broken, but the great leader still resisted. Just as he was about to throw out some powerful Dharma treasure, his entire body suddenly froze into an ice statue, making him unable to resist at all. "Just search his soul." The King of Darkness casually pointed at his forehead. Just as he was about to search his soul, suddenly, a loud snort came from the great leader's body. The King of Darkness' body shook and immediately retracted his hand. At the same time, He backed away and stared at the great leader with a pondering look in his eyes. You are Dark Star Chamber of Commerce's Alliance leader sword? He. The great leader suddenly opened his eyes. A transparent figure appeared above his head. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at the King of Darkness condescendingly. Why do you have to force me? I didn't want to show myself. The King of Darkness calmed himself down and snorted coldly. So it's Alliance leader sword, why didn't you say so earlier? Because of you, if Alliance leader sword wants to come, I will welcome you with open arms. Looks like you've been pretending to be the King of Darkness for too long and are used to this identity. Alliance leader sword's soul mocked. If you really are the King of Darkness, so what if I come personally? But I don't dare to fight you face to face. Who knows if I will also be suppressed here? The King of Darkness' yellow eyes squinted like a pair of snake eyes. Alliance leader sword. Since we have said so much, we have nothing else to say. The sword sheath is in my hands, it's not up to you to interfere. As he spoke, he roared and the 4 Crown Emperor's powerful aura attacked. Alliance leader sword's soul blocked with his arms and said calmly, I feel that you will come to cooperate with me sooner or later. As he spoke, his soul wrapped around the great leader and they disappeared. The King of Darkness chased after them but couldn't stop them. His face flashed with uncertainty as he snorted angrily and left. In the magma, Wang Dahu's eyes widened and he said in horror, Our King of Darkness is an impostor? Su Yu was also surprised by this shocking news. It was one thing for the first master of the Windcloud Heights to be the disciple of the King of Darkness, but the guardian of the Dark Star civilization was also an outsider in disguise. Wang Dahu was stunned and murmured, No wonder, I always felt that the King of Darkness was different from before. It turned out to be true. As the first-class holy servants who served the King of Darkness, they could most directly feel the changes in the Holy King. They didn't expect their feelings to be right. The King of Darkness had changed. As he murmured, he was about to get up and leave the magma, but Su Yu grabbed his shoulder and shook his head slightly, telling him not to act rashly. Wang Dahu was stunned. He remembered that Su Yu's vigilance saved their lives just now, so he immediately squatted down again and quietly observed the situation outside. After waiting for half an hour and making sure there was no movement outside, Wang Dahu was about to heave a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a soft sigh rang in his ears. Am I thinking too much? Wang Dahu was shocked to find that above the magma not far away from them, the King of Darkness, who was supposed to leave, was floating strangely. It turned out that he suspected that the great leader was not the only one who broke into the holy pond, so he used the same trick and came back. Fortunately, Su Yu was cautious and did not fall into the trap. Wang Dahu was secretly scared. That was close. However, just as Wang Dahu was relieved, the King of Darkness glanced at the magma under his feet, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He opened his 5 fingers and slowly pressed down on the magma. Suddenly, all the magma boiled, and an inexplicable huge pressure came crashing down. Su Yu and the others who were hiding in the magma were shrouded by the amazing pressure. The little Kylan groaned, and purple divine blood flowed from the corner of its mouth. It was because of the injury. The void around it began to tremble unstably. Su Yu looked solemn. The King of Darkness was more cautious than he thought. Even though he knew there was a 90% chance that there was no one hiding in the magma, he still wanted to search it. With the little Kylan's condition, it could not hold on for more than a few breaths, and it would be discovered. Once it was discovered, they did not have a 4-crown emperor like the Sword Alliance master to help them. At this critical moment, suddenly, the King of Darkness's eyes flashed, and he stared at the shadow of the entrance. A giant creature slowly swam down from the shadow. It was a green snake that was 1,000 feet long. It's you. The King of Darkness's expression relaxed. The green snake was the holy beast of the King of Darkness, and it was responsible for guarding the ice cave. It bowed its head in front of the King of Darkness to express its apology, which meant that someone had broken in. The King of Darkness shook his head coldly. It's not your fault. The first-class holy servants colluded with the inside and outside. Even if you did not sleep, they would have other ways to break in. The green snake lay on the ground, very obedient. Go search in the magma and make sure there are no other creatures here, the King of Darkness said calmly. If it was in the past, he was very confident in his own senses. However, there was a person like the great leader who could block his senses and had many treasures, so he had to be vigilant. Instead of using pressure to suppress the magma, it was more direct to let the green snake enter the magma to search. The light body snake's eyes turned cold, and its huge body swam into the magma. Moreover, the direction from which it came was coincidentally the direction where Su Yu and the others were. Wang Dahe's heart was in his throat, and he was extremely desperate. That was the holy beast of the King of Darkness. If it personally checked in the magma, it would definitely be able to detect their existence. Su Yu was also extremely serious. He secretly held the necklace on his neck, and was ready to fight. Plop! The green snake jumped into the magma, and a pair of huge snake eyes that were like lanterns were particularly eye-catching in the magma. It immediately discovered Su Yu, Wang Dahu, and the little Kailan, and looked at Su Yu for 3 breaths. Just as Su Yu clenched his teeth and prepared to fight it out, the green snake suddenly withdrew its gaze and slithered past them as if nothing had happened. Then, it swam around the whole magma and returned to the shore. The huge snake head gently shook its head. That's good. The King of Darkness heaved a sigh of relief and said, the next period of time is very important. Don't sleep again and guard the ice cave carefully. The green snake nodded its huge snake head. Let's go and reseal this place. Before the King of Darkness left, he looked at the cross, raised his hand, and put away the scabbard that was inserted into the cross. He said to himself, this place is not 100% safe. The scabbard is still safe in my hand. Chapter 1921. After a long time, a huge bubble emerged from the magma. Su Yu carried the small Kailan and appeared with Wang De. Wang De, whose face was full of disbelief as he stuttered, Holy beast! Why did it let us go and help us hide it from the Dark King? One had to know that the holy beasts only obeyed the Dark King. It was completely inexplicable. Su Yu turned a deaf ear to her and stared at the empty cross. His face was extremely unsightly. Before he left, the King of Darkness took away the scabbard hidden here. He had worked so hard and even nearly lost his life, but in the end all his efforts were for naught. Could it be that he really had no fate with the Emperor-killing sword? Back then, Yun Yazi had forced the divine warrior of Tianyun to capture a whiff of the Emperor-killing sword's destiny and placed it on Su Yu. Theoretically speaking, Su Yu also had the opportunity to fight for the Emperor-killing sword. Now that the scabbard was taken away by King of Darkness, he had no way of getting the Emperor-killing sword. Even though it was right in front of him, Su Yu could do nothing about it. Just as he was feeling exceptionally disappointed, the blurry mass of flesh on the cross wriggled a little and said weakly, "Hee hee. Of course. I was the one who told the green snake to let you go." Wang Dahe looked over in surprise and murmured, "You? That's the Dark King's holy beast. How could it possibly listen to your orders?" Su Yu came back to his senses, thought for a moment, and nodded slightly. It is still possible if he is the real King of Darkness. Hearing this, Wang Dahe was stunned. He's the real King of Darkness? Why do you say that? Su Yu stared at the lump of meat and said, "Didn't Alliance Master Jian explain it clearly just now? If the current King of Darkness was an impostor, then who was the impostor? No matter how I look at it, it can only be that foreign expert who barged into the Dark Star civilization a long time ago, right? You're saying..." Wang Dahe's mind buzzed, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. In the battle back then, the Dark King lost and was suppressed by an extraterrestrial civilization expert. That extraterrestrial civilization expert then pretended to be the Dark King? Su Yu nodded slowly. Wang Dahu stared at the lump of meat in shock. He still couldn't believe it. Is this real? The meatball laughed. I also hope it's fake. Wang Dahu felt like he was struck by lightning. He was stunned on the spot. You really are the real King of Darkness? When I was suppressed, you had just ascended the sacred mountain. You were only a 9-year-old child then, right? Even your name was given by me. Because I saved you from the jaws of a tiger, I named you Wang Dao. This was a secret that Wang Dahu had never told anyone. He was originally a mortal child. When he was herding cows in the mountains, he was snatched away by a tiger. It was King of Darkness who happened to pass by and saved him in passing. After discovering that he had cultivation foundations, he brought him back to the sacred mountain and named him Wang Da. Only he and the King of Darkness knew about this. Dark King Wang Da, whose eyes were filled with tears as he quickly walked over. Dark King, it was you who was trapped all these years. No wonder he always felt that the King of Darkness was a different person after he got injured. From the looks of it, the so-called injury was just an excuse for the foreign expert to conceal his proficiency in the Tao of Ice. It was no wonder that Green Snake would listen to him and let them go while they were hiding in the magma. Because Green Snake knew long ago that the one imprisoned under the sacred pond was the real King of Darkness. But that Green Snake was very smart. He always pretended not to know anything to avoid being killed by the fake King of Darkness. Don't go over. Su Yu reached out and grabbed Wang Dahu. Even with the King of Darkness's strength, he could be trapped on the cross. Do you think that cross is an ordinary object? The meatball said, That's right. Don't come over. This cross is something that person brought from the outside world. Once you step within 10 feet of it, your body will be immediately sucked into the cross, even if you are a 4-crown king. Wang Dahe said anxiously, King of Darkness, how can I save you? It's useless. You can't save me. The King of Darkness said in a hoarse voice. With the cross, no one could save him. What if I can save you? Suddenly, Su Yu said slowly. The meatball of the King of Darkness wriggled and said, You! That's right, Su Yu said calmly. But I want the scabbard. The meatball was silent for a long time and said slowly, I can guess. You risked your life to come here for the scabbard. I can promise that if you can save me, I can give you the scabbard. Su Yu thought about it and nodded. Okay, I hope you can keep your promise. After saying that, Su Yu stepped forward, completely defenseless. Human, are you going to walk over here? Su Yu did not speak. He stepped within 10 feet of the cross. A powerful suction force instantly sucked Su Yu over. But at this moment, a flow of the law of time appeared on the surface of Su Yu's body. The King of Darkness gasped. The law of time, under the absolute time, the suction force from the cross stopped and could not affect Su Yu at all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Su Yu took a step forward and pulled the meatball off the cross. Then, he took it with him and retreated 10 feet away from the cross. It seemed like a long time, but in fact, it did not take more than a breath. The absolute time could only last for a breath. Without the influence of the cross, the meatball immediately released a weak force to repair itself. In the blink of an eye, it turned from a blurry mass of flesh to a dark-faced young man in his 30s. Seeing him, Wang Dahe knelt on the ground with a thud and was so excited that tears flowed down his face. King of Darkness! The dark-faced young man had a cold temperament. At this moment, he showed a hint of tenderness and helped Wang Dahe up. Get up. Then, he looked at Su Yu with deep surprise and gratitude. I didn't expect to meet someone who mastered the law of time in my lifetime. I thought it was just a legend. I can't repay you for saving my life, so I will give you the scabbard. The King of Darkness said slowly. Su Yu frowned slightly. Now? The scabbard was taken by the fake King of Darkness. In your current weak state, I am afraid it will be very difficult for you to get the scabbard back from him. The King of Darkness was suppressed by the fake King of Darkness when he was at his peak, let alone now when he was extremely weak. His current strength was probably even weaker than Su Yu's. A hint of mockery appeared on the King of Darkness's weak face. What that thief got was just a fake scabbard. What? Fake? The fake King of Darkness was very shrewd. He didn't look like someone who could be easily fooled. The scabbard of the Emperor Killer Sword has always been a legend. Only I have it. If I say it is, it is. If I say it is not, it is not. No matter how smart that thief is, he won't know that the scabbard I carry with me is just a camouflage. This, Su Yu was surprised. Then where is the real scabbard? The King of Darkness smiled coldly. It is far away, but it is right in front of you. It is with you. Su Yu was secretly surprised. The fake King of Darkness had tortured him to such an extent, but he didn't find the scabbard on him? It didn't make sense. To be exact, I am the scabbard. However, the King of Darkness revealed a shocking secret that shocked Su Yu. Wang Dahu, who was beside him, was also stunned. King of Darkness, you said you are the scabbard? The little Kylin, who was playing on the ground, also raised its eyes curiously and said in a childish voice, "The scabbard? It doesn't look like a scabbard to you." In response, the King of Darkness laughed. When have you ever heard that a scabbard is an inanimate object that was forged? This really had not happened. They only knew that a scabbard was a sword, but they didn't know what a scabbard was. They just subconsciously thought it was a forged magical artifact. Back then, the Killing Path Master used his spine to forge the Emperor Killing Sword. This is a well-known rumor. However, few people know that the Killing Path Master used his own essence blood to forge a human-shaped scabbard. That scabbard is me. Hearing this, Su Yu felt that it was a fantasy. However, when it came to the Path Master, he had to believe it. It was not impossible for a drop of blood to evolve into a powerful creature like the Four Crowns Emperor. The Emperor Killing Sword contains the killing intent of the Killing Path Master. There is nothing in this world that can contain it. Only I, who was born from the flesh and blood of the Killing Path Master, can contain it. The King of Darkness said slowly. Su Yu's eyes lit up. He had also wondered what kind of material the scabbard was made of to be able to isolate the all-pervasive killing intent of the Emperor Killing Sword. So that was it. However, Su Yu voiced his doubts. Why did the Killing Path Master make the scabbard? Wasn't the reason he left the Emperor Killing Sword behind? Wasn't it because he was unwilling to die because of fear? Wasn't it because he wanted to leave behind his killing intent to continue wreaking havoc in the world? The King of Darkness did not explain. Instead, he stared at Su Yu and said leisurely, "You are very smart. I think you should understand that history is always written by the victors." Su Yu was startled. The Killing Path Master was besieged to death. Was there a hidden reason? Then why did he die? Su Yu could not help but be curious. The King of Darkness said, "This is the answer that the thief wanted to know. The secret of the scabbard, because the Killer Dao Master had inadvertently obtained a shocking clue, and that clue had brought about a fatal disaster. His death turned that clue into an eternal secret. If you want to know, there is only one way." Su Yu's eyes flashed. The sword and the scabbard become one again? The King of Darkness nodded approvingly. That's right. That thief and the Sword Alliance Master wanted to know the secret at the moment when the sword and the scabbard became one. What would the clue mean if it could trigger a war between the Path Masters? It would not be an exaggeration to say that it would shock the great beginning realm. Moreover, the Emperor Killing Sword was only one of the 4 pieces of the Emperor set. If it contained a secret, would the other 3 pieces also contain a secret? Would the combination of the 4 secrets lead to an even greater secret? Su Yu's heart trembled. It was as if he had inadvertently been involved in the whirlpool between the Path Masters. After a moment, he calmed himself down. The information that the King of Darkness brought to him was too shocking. He needed to digest it properly. "You mean you are willing to follow me?" Su Yu's eyes flashed. The King of Darkness pointed at himself and smiled bitterly. "I have no other choice but to follow you." In his weak state and current situation, the only person he could trust was Su Yu. "Then leave quickly." Su Yu took a deep look at the cross. Perhaps the fake King of Darkness would notice that the King of Darkness had escaped. It was better to leave as soon as possible. Chapter 1922. Who else could that voice belong to other than the fake King of Darkness? He did not leave and was still hiding in the shadows. Bang! With a muffled sound, a small green snake the size of a palm, trapped in the ice, fell to the ground. It was the green snake that the King of Darkness had raised. It had been compressed in the ice by the fake King of Darkness. Therefore, the green snake did not have time to warn them. "Qing Lin," the King of Darkness said in a low voice. The fake King of Darkness walked over with his hands behind his back and stared at the frozen green snake with disdain. "This beast thinks it has hidden itself well and is secretly protecting the few of you who are hiding in the lava. Haha, do you think I am so easily fooled?" With a stomp of his foot, the small green snake and the ice lump exploded on the spot. The green snake did not even have time to scream before it was crushed to death. Fu Bingyu. The King of Darkness was furious. He had raised the green snake since it was a child and regarded it as his family. It had been loyal for many years and had never abandoned him. "Haha, speaking of which, I should also thank Qing Lin," the King of Darkness said with a smile. The King of Darkness smiled calmly. "Without its protection, how would you be willing to tell the secret?" He had interrogated the King of Darkness for many years and forced him to reveal the secret of the scabbard. Today, when he found out that Su Yu and Wang Dahu were hiding in the lava and the green snake was deliberately hiding their existence, he decided to let them save the King of Darkness. Only then could the King of Darkness tell the secret. He had to admit that Fu Bingyu's scheming was terrifying. The King of Darkness was filled with grief and anger. He clenched his fists and stared at the other party. He was extremely weak and his strength was even weaker than Su Yu's. It was impossible for the three of them to fight him. Su Yu's heart sank. It was too difficult for him to deal with the four-crowned King of Darkness. Fu Bingyu smiled coldly and stared at the King of Darkness. "So, the so-called secret of the scabbard is the moment the Emperor Killer sword is sheathed. Haha, great." Suddenly, an extremely cold air surged and engulfed Su Yu and the other two. With its shocking ice law, it only needed a breath to freeze the three of them forever. At the critical moment, the dark moon on King of Darkness's glabella suddenly shot out a large patch of black light, forming a perfect black moon that enveloped the three of them and little Qilin. Seeing this scene, Wang Dahu could not help but be shocked. This is... He was no stranger to this scene. Fu Bingyu sneered, "Oh? One of the three divine techniques of the Dark Moon, Big Dipper? Unfortunately, in front of me, you won't have the chance to do so." The sweeping cold air suddenly transformed into a sharp sword and slashed towards the full moon, splitting it into two on the spot. The full moon shook rapidly and was about to collapse. At the same time, the remaining cold air quickly surrounded them and instantly froze everyone present. Su Yu tapped the space between his brows. If he had no other choice, he could only remove the ice crystal crown and activate his Tao Tai eyes. Only this method could deal with the four crown emperors. However, the price he had to pay was that it could no longer be sealed. It would greedily devour everything it saw, and when there was nothing left for it to devour, it would devour Su Yu. Rather than dying now, they might as well perish together. Just as his finger was about to remove the ice crystal crown, a chessboard flew out of Su Yu's 9-jade spiritual pearl. That chessboard was an item taken from the Dustless Moon faction's treasury. It had been sealed 10 times by Master Bao Kuan. Later on, it was activated by the Taishian Cave Master. The remaining 10 layers of seals had been destroyed by the White Emperor's puppet over the past half a year, leaving only a thin layer. But at this moment it flew out on its own, causing Su Yu's finger to pause. He could not help but be shocked. As soon as the chessboard appeared, it spun and sucked in all the cold chi in the area, leaving not a single trace behind. Looking at the chessboard, the dull gray chess pieces on the surface began to glow. Shreds of majestic, ethereal, and mighty aura assaulted Su Yu. It was as if a living being was standing in front of the boundless absolute beginning realm, deeply aware of its own insignificance. Fu Bingyu was slightly stunned, and he subconsciously struck out again. However, even the powerful Four-Crown Emperor's attack was once again absorbed by the chessboard. And the chess pieces on the chessboard lit up completely, giving off a blinding brilliance. With a pop, the chessboard shook violently, shattering the last remaining layer of seals. A mighty aura shot up into the sky, forming a substantial beam of light that broke through the holy pond, broke through the holy mountain, and shot straight into the outer realm. Moreover, the beam of light rapidly expanded in all directions. It forced Fu Bingyu to retreat, his eyes filled with shock. What is this? He was from the outer realm, so he did not know the legends of the Dark Star civilization. But the King of Darkness knew. However, he was also in an unusual state of shock, and his voice was trembling uncontrollably. Life, chess. A long, long time ago, a Path Master had fallen in the Dark Star civilization. Before he died, he used his entire life's path to condense it into a chessboard, called the Life Chess. He left a part of his soul in the chessboard. If someone could finish this chessboard, he would realize a great wish of the victor, including the ability to allow anyone below the Path Master to break through a level. Even if a Four-Crown Emperor became a 5-sense Emperor, it would be fulfilled. But this chessboard was just a legend, such that the Kings of Darkness only treated it as a legend and never tried to search for it. So, it really existed. The beam of light expanded rapidly, instantly covering the entire holy mountain. The giant beam charged into the sky, allowing the entire Dark Star civilization to see it. The southernmost moon-worshipping cult, the northernmost heaven palace, all living beings saw that blinding light. A vast will of the common people rumbled in all directions. Within the moon-worshipping cult, the holy maiden, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened her eyes, revealing a look of deep surprise. Life Chess. The Life Chess has appeared. If Master knows, he will definitely be happy. Unfortunately, even if Master knows, he won't be able to rush over. Otherwise, Master will definitely win. Taking in a deep breath, the holy maiden muttered to herself, "Then, let me participate. I hope that I can fulfill that wish." Wind Cloud Villa. Sima Biyun looked in the direction of the holy mountain, her eyes filled with shock. The legend of the Life Chess is actually true. A ball of worry formed between her brows. I hope it doesn't affect my plan. North. Cloud Mist God Mountain, Heaven Palace, and the other leaders of the northern powers were all shocked by such a huge phenomenon. The news of the Life Chess appearing caused the entire north to be in an uproar, even more so than when the Emperor Killing Sword appeared. That was the legendary Life Chess that could fulfill any wish. All of a sudden, the entire Dark Star civilization was stirred up. Beneath the holy pond, the King of Darkness came back to his senses, his expression changing. He took the chance to repair the damaged full moon, shooting out a thick black light that covered the three of them and little Kylan. Fu Bingyu noticed his actions and immediately tried to stop him. But this time, his attack was easily absorbed by the giant light pillar. No! Fu Bingyu charged over in rage, but he was too late. When he charged over, the black light had already teleported them all away, and they disappeared without a trace. The Life Chess also retracted the light pillar and disappeared along with Su Yu. Fu Bingyu's expression was dark and sunken. Who is that person? Where did he come from? It was because of his appearance that the King of Darkness was saved and the scabbard that belonged to him was taken away. However, Su Yu was wearing a silver robe and did not reveal his true appearance. Fu Bingyu did not care about his identity, so he did not investigate in detail. He could not even find out which clan Su Yu belonged to. Don't think I don't know where you will be teleported to. Fu Bingyu was furious. When he returned to the Holy Mountain, he immediately announced that he would leave the mountain and rush to the south. Deep in the south, near the border of the Dark Star civilization. This place was under the jurisdiction of the moon-worshipping cult and was called the White Dragon Mountain Range. At the end of the White Dragon Mountain Range there was a white ocean. At the bottom of the ocean, 6 whirlpools were spinning quietly. No one in the moon-worshipping cult would forget that a few years ago, the Dustless Moon sect occupied this place and killed countless moon-worshipping cult disciples just to open the secret realm within. At this moment, in the secret realm that had been sealed once again, a black light descended. From the black light, 3 people and 1 beast fell. Wang Dahu looked around the familiar area, his eyes filled with shock. As expected, it's here. Su Yu sensed a group of blood beasts in the distance. He was slightly shocked. This is the secret realm of the White Dragon Mountain Range. To be precise, this is the hidden space where the first Windcloud Heights master, Sima Baidi, died, the King of Darkness behind him said. Su Yu's pupils shrank slightly. The first Windcloud Heights master fought with Fu Bingyu and never came back. He must have died outside. But the place where he died is here? Then, he began to think deeply. Sima Biyun said that Fu Bingyu killed his ancestor, and the great formation stone of the heavenly star 9 Yin and 9 Yang formation disappeared. It was very likely that it had fallen into Fu Bingyu's hands. But judging from the current situation, Sima Baidi had created a hidden space before his death, and Fu Bingyu probably did not succeed. If that was the case, the formation stone was probably still in this secret realm. Thinking of this, Su Yu felt a rush of excitement. King of Darkness, all these years, have you been teleporting people from different regions here through divine skills? Including me? Wang Daha guessed. Every full moon, some people would be teleported to this place by accident. This had always been a strange thing. Now it seemed that it was the doing of the King of Darkness. Yes, it was me. King of Darkness looked around, his eyes were filled with sadness. I didn't expect that Brother White Emperor would fall to that person's hands and die because of me. The King of Darkness and the first Windcloud Heights master knew each other. I teleported you here in the hope that you can help the descendants of Brother Baidi to suppress the body of Sima Baidi. Wait. Su Yu came back to his senses. The Daesun clan was the descendant of Sima Baidi? Didn't it mean that they were from the same clan as Sima Biyun? Sima Biyun was the only descendant of the Sima clan left in the Windcloud Heights. The Daesun clan was also from the Daesun clan. If Sima Biyun were to find out about this, who knew what she would think? The body of Sima Baidi? Su Yu was puzzled. Did Sima Baidi's body remain after he passed away? The King of Darkness's eyes dimmed. He nodded lightly. Of course. Otherwise, how could these blood clan be born? The King of Darkness sighed softly. He appeared above the large group of blood clan members, chanting a strange spell that had an extremely powerful calming effect on souls. Chapter 1923. Every vampire had such a thread of blood within their bodies. Hundreds of thousands of blood threads appeared and converged toward the end of the secret realm. In the past, the blood pools were still dried up, but now they were suddenly shattered. This was because the ground beneath the pool of blood had split open, revealing an ancient bronze coffin that was 100 feet tall. Thousands of strands of blood seeped into the ancient bronze coffin. When Su Yu opened his soul eyes to take a look, he was surprised to discover that only a skeleton was left. Even though it was dead, it still gave off an unusually dangerous feeling. The wisps of blood fused into his head and hid within, emitting wisps of evil aura. Brother White Deity was severely injured by Fu Bingyu and hid in a mystic realm to recuperate. However, he was unable to recover and could only use a portion of his blood essence to create a descendant. The remaining blood essence was corroded by the Yin evil after his death, turning him into a blood race. In the end, the blood kindred were used by the Emperor Killer Sword and became accomplices in obtaining the White Sun Divine Stone. At the mention of the White Sun Divine Stone, Su Yu's heart trembled slightly. He took it out and said, "King of Darkness, do you recognize this item?" King of Darkness looked down and exclaimed, "Why is it in your hands?" Su Yu pondered for a moment, then told him the whole story. King of Darkness sighed, "You and Brother Bai Di are fated. His star god stone chose you and not the descendant he created with his essence blood." Heavenly Star Divine Stone. Su Yu's eyes shone. "Can the Heavenly Star Divine Stone you mentioned be used as a formation stone?" King of Darkness thought about it and nodded. "That's right, it can be used as the formation stone for the Heavenly Star 9E9 Yang Great Formation. How do you know about the existence of this formation?" For a moment, Su Yu was stunned. It turned out that the formation stone that Sima Biyun had yearned for had already fallen into Su Yu's hands. He pondered deeply and asked, "What will happen if the heavenly astral 9 Yin and 9 Yang Great Array is controlled by an untrustworthy person?" The King of Darkness' pupils constricted, and a look of wariness appeared in his eyes. Extermination of all things, or domination of the world. Su Yu knew about the former. Sima Biyun had said that this formation could kill the four-crowned divine warrior and most of the living creatures. But the latter, she actually concealed it. As he thought of this, Su Yu had no choice but to reconsider his deal with Sima Biyun. Was she really trying to avenge her ancestors and father, or did she have other plans? This woman was very scheming, and even Su Yu was fooled by her brilliant performance. It was unwise to trust her unconditionally. The King of Darkness sighed and put away Sima Baidi's remains. "Let's leave as soon as possible. After so many years, Fu Bingyu should have long discovered that I've been secretly using divine arts to teleport people from different regions into this secret realm. This place isn't safe." Su Yu was deeply convinced. The group packed up and immediately left the secret realm. Almost as soon as they returned to the moon-worshipping cult, Fu Bingyu came to the front of the whirlpool of the secret realm. With a casual palm strike, he pierced through the whirlpool and scanned inside. He snorted coldly, "The aura has just dissipated. It seems like he just left." He narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction of the moon-worshipping sect. Moon-worshipping cult's holy altar. Before entering, Su Yu pondered for a moment before activating the world annihilation plate. "Both of you, if I'm not wrong, Fu Bingyu won't be able to find you. He's likely to use the power of moon-worshipping cult to find you. In order to avoid trouble, I'll have to trouble both of you to stay in this cavern world for the time being." The King of Darkness and Wang Daho had no objections. After witnessing Fu Bingyu's cunning, it was better for them to be more cautious. After sending the two of them into the cavern world of the world annihilation plate, Su Yu put on a dusty black robe, took out the identity nameplate of the moon-worshipping cult leader, hung it on his body, and stepped into the holy altar. The holy maiden immediately sensed the appearance of the moon-worshipping cult leader and showed herself. "Where have you been in the past 6 months?" the holy maiden asked discontentedly. After leaving the Wind Cloud Villa, the moon-worshipping cult leader hurriedly said goodbye and disappeared. All the teaching affairs were left to her. How was this like a cult leader? "Some personal matters," Su Yu said calmly. "Did anything big happen recently?" The holy maiden stared at him as if he was a strange person. "Didn't you notice that light beam?" Su Yu suddenly understood. "Oh, the mortal people's chess, right? I know." The holy maiden said calmly, "Why are you asking if you know? The mortal people's chess has started. Within 49 days, the 49 strongest people of the Dark Star civilization will be summoned by the chessboard to participate in the chess game. With our strength, we'll definitely be among them." Now let's talk about how to deal with it. Her expression was solemn. She took the mortal people's chess very seriously. Suyu was embarrassed. He had the mortal people's chess in his hands, but he didn't know as much as the Holy Maiden, an outsider. At this moment, the mortal people's chess was lying in the 9-jade spiritual pearl with the little Kylan. It would start in 49 days, and the mortal people's chess would appear again. To deal with it, it should be the alliance of the 5 factions, right? Suyu said without hesitation. At the moment, no one knew what the rules of the chess game were, so there was no mistake in forming an alliance. The Holy Maiden frowned slightly. That's a good idea, but there can only be one final winner of the mortal people's chess. The alliance of the 5 factions is a temporary alliance formed by the Emperor Killing Sword. They might not form an alliance on the mortal people's chess. Suyu didn't care. The Dustless Moon faction was under his control, and the Green Netherworld Manor was about to be controlled by another puppet. Even Sima Biyun of the Wind Cloud Villa was on the same page as Suyu and would listen to his orders. He really couldn't see any reason for the alliance of the 5 factions to be disobedient. However, he naturally wouldn't expose himself. He said, "Then I'll have to trouble the Holy Maiden to contact them." "Why me?" The Holy Maiden glared at him. "Because I have to train, and I don't have time to care about other people's business." Suyu chuckled and left. The Holy Maiden gritted her teeth in hatred. That be ****. However, she was very concerned about the mortal people's chess. Even if she was annoyed, she had to take the initiative to contact them. In the end, she was shocked to find that the Dustless Moon faction and the Wind Cloud Villa were very cooperative with her. She didn't even have the chance to persuade them, and both sides nodded in agreement. Sima Biyun even took the initiative to suggest that she would issue an order in the name of the alliance of the 5 factions. This made the Holy Maiden burst with confidence. "Both sides are giving me face?" The Holy Maiden couldn't help but laugh. "If that's the case, what's the point of having the Moon Worship Sect Master? Isn't it enough to have me, the Holy Maiden?" Suyu left the Moon Worship Palace and appeared directly in Princess Rukun's bedroom. Compared to the past, her cultivation had improved tremendously. She was the first to break through to the level of the Divine Warrior of Heaven and Earth in half a year. At this moment, she was happily bathing in the bathtub, humming a melodious tune. Suddenly, the space in front of her started to flow. The isolation she had set up did not stop her at all. She stared blankly at Suyu's figure in the flowing space. How could Suyu have expected that Princess Rukun would be bathing at this moment? When he realized that something was amiss, Princess Rukun's soft shoulders, which were exposed above the water's surface, came into view, as well as her faintly discernible well-developed breasts. Princess Rukun squatted in the water with a plop, only her head sticking out of the water. She glared at Suyu with a flushed face and indignation. "You? How could you do this?" Suyu turned his head away awkwardly and muttered, "There are times when the space law is inconvenient." Because the space law was too powerful, the ordinary isolation couldn't stop him, and he came in directly. "Well, I'm sorry," Suyu said sheepishly. The rustling sound of clothes being put on could be heard. Princess Rukun put on her clothes with a flushed face and said angrily, "That's enough." Suyu looked straight at her, and he couldn't help but recall the scene just now. He naturally compared it with her figure. He couldn't tell. He didn't feel it when she put on clothes, but he didn't expect her body to be so well built. "What are you looking at?" Princess Rukun crossed her arms in front of her chest and gritted her teeth. She didn't know whether to be angry or to laugh. There had been so many opportunities in the past, but Suyu had never done anything to her. But today he had. "Really? Ahem. Congratulations, you've become a divine warrior of heaven and earth. If your father knew, he would be very happy," Suyu said. Princess Rukun's eyes flickered with a gentle light. "Yes, my father would be very pleased to know that I've broken through to the divine warrior of heaven and earth." She couldn't help but clutch the phoenix necklace around her neck. After a moment of silence, she said, "Brother Suyu, I want to go back to the Dew Empire to see my father." Suyu nodded lightly and said, "Sure," but then Suyu's tone turned cold, and he said indifferently, "As long as you're dead." In the past, he could only distinguish between Princess Rukin and Princess Linglong based on the subtle differences between them. But now, he could see through their souls with a casual look. At this moment, the blood-red soul was suppressing Princess Rukin's soul and taking over the dominant position. In other words, it was Princess Linglong who was in control of the body. Moreover, she had tried in vain to say that she missed Dongfang Xia to confuse Suyu and make him think that Princess Rukin was still in control of the body. Unfortunately, Suyu's soul mastery was much greater than before, and he had noticed the abnormality the moment he entered. Princess Rukin blinked her eyes in confusion and glared at him. "What nonsense are you talking about? We haven't seen each other for so long, yet you're saying such things the moment you come." Suyu laughed lightly. "I didn't expect that your soul wouldn't dissipate even after I let those little bugs in to devour your soul. It's really unexpected." Hearing this, Princess Rukin's face turned serious. His clear eyes became deep and full of vicissitude. "Suyu, you wretched bastard! You actually let those strange bugs in while I was asleep and ate my soul?" Princess Linglong was exposed, her eyes spitting fire. Before she fainted, in order to ensure that Suyu wouldn't kill her and Princess Rukin together, she had cast the life and death curse on Suyu. Once she died, Suyu would die immediately. She had never expected that Suyu would find out where her soul was, and that he would find bugs out of nowhere and devour her soul, severely damaging it. Her soul was extremely weak now, not even half of what it had been a few years ago. It wouldn't be long before Princess Rukin, whose abilities had improved tremendously, would overwhelm her soul. She was extremely furious with the soul, and her murderous intent had arisen. The life and death unification curse had linked this body to Suyu. However, if Princess Linglong's soul was destroyed, the life and death curse would not take effect. In other words, Suyu had found a safe way to kill her. She didn't dare to imagine whether she could wake up after falling into a deep sleep again. She was afraid that she would be devoured by those bugs while she was asleep. She had disguised herself as Princess Rukin to catch Suyu off guard and kill him on the spot. However, since her disguise had been seen through, she could only kill him forcefully. All of a sudden, she started chanting the ancient Dragon Clan language. Suyu's eyes turned cold. This was the secret technique of the Dragon Clan's royal family, dragon blood seething. He had seen with his own eyes how she had almost killed the Baiwa sect master with this technique.